Check one, check two. I think we've got audio on there. In theory. Um, New chat room. Thank you. Can you check audio coming my way real quick? That's a little better, I think. Check.
This is Doris Davenport, host of the Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. I'm on every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, right before Hal Sparks. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, let's, shall we? Hey, all right. So, let's see. Hi, chat room. Hopefully we're up and running. There's a couple people in there, and we'll get that going in just a second. I've shifted my entire setup around, so I think officially I've solved what the problem was. Johnny, can you hear me in Chicago? You hear me okay?
When my mic's on, I can.
Oh, good. All right, well, that's certainly.
I can hear you when my mic's off. I just can't tell you about it.
It's technically true. Thanks for welcoming that. Yeah, chat room in there. EO, you guys let me know if you can hear me okay. Sound and looks good. Excellent. Cool. All right. So in the in the Assange issue, let me be abundantly clear. There's a lot to the WikiLeaks history that I think people carry forward into the present, which is not indicative of the current circumstance. That it's kind of like it's kind of and this is I think an apt example. It's the Me Too circumstance for a lot of people. It's like what I'll tell you what, watching the WikiLeaks and Julian Assange stuff is a little bit like watching the Finding Neverland documentary or something, where you're like, ah, man, I liked his music and I liked how it made people feel. And I know it had value at one point. And now it's just kind of gone to hell. And it's hard for me to see the original stuff through without this lens clouding what I'm experiencing with this, and that's the issue that people have with Michael Jackson. And I think the Julian Assange thing, especially with the kind of Me Too charges against him, which have been conveniently jettisoned on, fairly quickly by everyone. Like, it was amazing how he was able to, like, every other man with Me Too charges against him, there was a real movement like, hey guys, as much as you might like what this person does, or you might appreciate their work, or you might have, an appreciation for them as an artist or what they've done, may have seemed like it was very supportive of women or the movement. You got to put that aside for a second and listen to the victims. You need to listen to his accusers and give them a real moment. You can make your decision later if you believe that it is unfair, but you have to give them that space. And it seemed like the one area where that didn't seem to apply at all seemed to be Julian Assange. It was kind of bizarre. Immediately, everybody's like, this is just crap. This is, the charges against him are garbage, which I don't know how that made the women feel. Now, again, there's a lot to unpack against that. And it may turn out in court that they were false. That's life. But the knee-jerk reaction was inverted when it came to Julian Assange. And I think for a lot of people, there's mixed feelings about a lot of that. So let's let's look at this in terms of how they were kind of experiencing them. So the Ecuadorian officials, Diane Abbott from the Labor Party had said, this is not because of to protect U.S. national security. It's just because they're mad that he showed some stuff against the U.S. government. Okay. There is no doubt in my mind that there are people within the DOD and the government that desperately want Julian Assange in jail simply because stuff was aired. There's no case there, though, because ultimately you don't want that guy dragged in front of an actual court, because in terms of the release of that material, he will be found innocent. He will. It is. There's. We have not only the freedom of the press, but we have decades from the Pentagon Papers to Watergate to so many of these different moments in American history where it's been important that uncomfortable details come out. And the newspapers that have released them have been in court about these things. They have gone through this process and come out victorious every single time. The problem Julian Assange has is that, and according to the allegations that he is facing, is that he assisted in the stealing of the documents that he helped disseminate. And there's two reasons why that's a real problem. One is you can't steal the stuff and get away with it when everybody else who steals the stuff doesn't. So you don't get to dodge jail time because you're higher up at the company. If you were, if Chelsea Manning had to go to jail for the part that she played, you played an equal part in that. You don't get to dodge that just because you have a higher job title in the circumstance. I mean, the legal ramifications of that being okay on a
get to hide behind the First Amendment because you helped actually steal it.
Yeah, precisely. The second part of it, and I think probably sort of the most egregious aspect of it is, and why it's important that journalists not participate in the in the receiving of documents where they help get those documents out, is that because there is a file drawer, let's say, and you have access to that to the file drawer. I can get you the key to that file drawer. You're interested in the entirety of the file drawer. I tell you, I'll give you the key. I don't want the whole file drawer. I just want the file on Johnny Million. Not in a good way. And yeah, no, but you understand what I'm saying? That by being a journalist is naturally selective by the material that they have received, because they don't have access to all the material they did not receive, right? They make a judgment based on, I have gotten, you got the Pentagon Papers, right? Your argument as a journalist is this newsworthy? Does it put people in danger in the field? Are there parts that I can redact to protect people's lives while still releasing uncomfortable or evidence of wrongdoing, for example, in a document? As a journalist, it's important that I do so, and I agree that is important that you do so. If I'm the one helping to pick out which stuff gets out, then I am no longer an arbiter of information. I am a director of propaganda, because we know that the DNC and the RNC were both hacked, but only the DNC material has seen the light of day. And the idea that it's curious, isn't it? And it's shocking to me that, I mean, I filter that in every time I see Lindsey Graham talk. Every time Lindsey Graham says something about, that basically defecates on the grave of John McCain, every time he does something which seems totally in contradiction to his behavior towards John McCain, all I can think of is he's in the situation the Ecuadorian embassy found themselves in with Julian Assange. Because here's the problem I have with the information that Julian Assange had on the Ecuadorian government. Do I think the Ecuadorian government does not have examples of corruption within their government? Of course they do. Human beings are open to corruption at all times. It is it is something that requires constant gardening and vigilance, right? No one is that naive. The problem I have is, if you don't let me stay here, I will show people what you're up to. If you are an honest disseminator of anti-corruption and trying to fight your way through, bring down governments or institutions within governments that are negative, that are destroying the concepts of democracy, that are going against the will of the people, that are engaged in violent and criminal acts, then the dissemination of that information is in of itself an honorable act, period, end of story. From the second you have it, every day you hold that back, you allow that crime to continue. So you are leveraging that criminal act for your own benefit. You are now a cop on the take. That's what it is. That Julian Assange went from being, the titular head of WikiLeaks and an important arbiter of knowledge about our the U.S. troops' behavior during the Iraq War, and whether or not they were doing it on their own or whether they were doing it as direction from the Bush administration, and the argument that came that should happen from that, all the way to, I know you're engaged in a criminal act. I'm not going to tell anybody that you're engaged in a criminal act if you let me stay here. That's the line where Julian Assange became a criminal. We'll be back. Robot. Yeah, I like the, and I can't tell. I'm gonna fix some audio stuff right now. It should be. Is it loud enough, guys? Audio volume is okay. It seems a little pinchy in my ear. I can't tell if it's because of the context on this guy. Check, check, check. Hey, check. 1, check, check, check. 2. The volume's okay. Is that all right? Check 1, check 2. Good there. Okay, cool. My sibilance, mic number 1, mic number 2. Hal's secretly playing Metroid on the other screen. That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Audio seems fine. Excellent. Thank you, Jude. Okay, that's the standard I'm using from now on. So, keyword is proof. House needs to do the investigation to find the proof, which they're doing. Yes, I agree. Hal's secretly playing. Let's see. I just want to check in with you. And by the way, thank you, Jean Lingelbach. Is it Jean or Jean? Because, and I have to ask because I'm a fan of Jean Beauvoir. If you're not familiar with who he is, he was the bass player for the Plasmatics, wrote the song Feel the Heat for the Cobra soundtrack, which I enjoyed very much. And he also co-wrote a couple of songs with Paul Stanley of Kiss, mainly a song called Who Wants to Be Lonely, which is one of my favorites of all time. So I'm Jean or Jean, let me know. And Jean-Luc Picard, right? Robotic again for a second. Interesting. Sibilance. Playing Pong. Johnny, volume is low. Okay. Yeah, that's a... can you guys test audio coming my way?
Yeah.
Okay. Just play a little something. Check, check, check. Oh my God. Billy, that's awesome. Congratulations.
820.com, where facts matter.
That's loud. Check, check.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was crazy. Audio's fine and I'm half volume. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Congratulations, Billy. That's awesome. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the... I'm sure she sounds better than I do. She's an understudy and the lead is out tonight. Oh, it's so exciting. It is literally I'm so excited for her because I've been in that circumstance. I've been the where I wasn't the lead in a play and I had a support role, and the lead was out, and I ended up playing the lead, and I, my understudy, like everybody gets moved up because somebody lower in the cast than her, in the chorus perhaps, gets moved up into hers. So it's just awesome. I'm so excited. So prayers and excitement for her. Can hear Chicago audio, but with popping. Yeah, I'm trying to fix that just because it's the nature of the audio from there. I'm trying to like get them as loud as possible without it being aggravatingly, crunchy. So I got, and this is what happens when I like Chicago gets, listen to me, Vegas gets all hooked up. We're great. The audio there is awesome. Video there is awesome. And then the LA house, everybody shuffles my stuff around. See all this nonsense? Yeah. Everybody unplugs my stuff the night before. And then I have to spend all morning putting everything back together and restarting, the computer situation. And it's just so aggravating. And I end up starting from scratch in the morning when I should have everything already set up and ready to go. It's maddening. Lord, I'm trying so hard. Just hold it together. Just hold it together. I appreciate your patience, guys. I so do. Yeah, dude. Hal, bless your heart. I've come in here and literally just seen my stuff, like my laptop, all that stuff, just unplugged with the cord wrapped around it, stacked in a corner.
Coming back to you in 60.
Because somebody using the studio who used to live here and doesn't anymore, just needed to move it. Unplugged all the Ethernet cables, by the way, too, which I don't understand. Oh my God. No, this is our studio. It's just they're moving out all the other gear. So, oh my God, it's terrible. It's good. I got 2 more weeks of it and everything will be fine, but maddening. We're coming back in 60 seconds.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
I had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being sunshine.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you if the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
A space little pink stick. True progressive talk.
Welcome back to the show. So, one of the things, that's been going on, and we'll get to, back to some of the Assange related stuff in a moment or whatever. But, this has been one of those weeks where, while the entire Barr situation has been going on, while William Barr has been running interference for Donald Trump throughout this entire ridiculousness. And somebody in the chat room has asked about talk about Ilhan Omar, and I do want to bring that up. So we'll talk about that in just 1 second. Thank you for reminding me. Is that I'm one of these people who believes that half of what Donald Trump tweets is because he knows the press. He doesn't understand the seriousness of his actual job because he didn't take anyone else who did the job seriously. He always looked at Bill Clinton and George Bush and Barack Obama especially as below him, right? So whatever job they were doing couldn't have been that hard. And he believed everything he was being told by Fox News about it being illegal. That was the whole thing too. Like, Obama's just being like a dictator. He's just creating law. He's just writing these illegal executive orders, and then the government is forced to carry them out, and which wasn't the case. You know, the Obama administration repeatedly, when they did executive orders, went back and forth with their legal departments, went back and forth with their lawyers. I think there were definitely moments in the Bush administration, though, and we are living out the ramifications of a lot of stuff that went down because because a bunch of people decided, well, you know, I'd rather have a beer with George Bush, and I'm not, and Al Gore seems a little wooden, and I don't know that he's that, you know, he's not that exciting to me, so I'll sit it out. And then we ended up with George Bush.
Didn't really have a purple heart.
Yeah, there was a purple Band-Aid. You know, is it really that important? And besides, weren't those guys baby killers anyways? I mean, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of the Vietnam War so much that anybody who fought in it, even the guy who literally has the quote of who's going to be the, you know, what is it? The last man to die for a lie, you know, who's going to ask him to do that? You know, that famous moment, that's John Kerry, you know, but meanwhile, people sat back and didn't vote for John Kerry because you don't change a horse midstream. And we're in the middle of a war we didn't need to be in, a war that was based on repeated lies. But, you know, still, it's you know, the horse is sick and keeps biting children, but let's keep it in the petting zoo because, you know, it's too much trouble getting it out of the pen, right? I mean, just the absurd concepts of effort that, you know, the American voter can't be bothered with. And then we find ourselves in the butter emails zone, and, you know, where, you know, a bunch of people are like, yeah, but I mean, Hillary would have been a lot worse. No, sorry, not at all. I mean, like, if you're telling yourself that, you're just, you are either racked with guilt or incredibly deluded. There is no two ways about it, because when Donald Trump comes out this week and says, if the radical left Democrats all of a sudden don't want the illegal migrants in their sanctuary cities, no more open arms. Why should others be expected to take them into their communities, go home, and come into our country legally and through a system of merit? Okay, nobody escapes violence because they've got a degree. Like the idea that asylum seekers, that we need a meritocracy for asylum seekers is like, I mean, an absurdity. Like, okay, let me see. You can get in the lifeboat if I get to get a look at your 401k. Or, you know, like, I mean, literally, this is Donald Trump is the guy that in the Titanic didn't want the poor people from the lower decks to get in the lifeboats. I mean, that's what this is. That's specifically what this is. That it's one thing to say, look, people who are economic migrants to our country have to come and be able to contribute. And if there's a job for them here, then we will welcome them, but we can only take so many people, and that's why we have a migrant system. But when it comes to asylum seekers, that's not what's happening at all. And what you, and the idea that, like, I mean, I'm one of these people who believes that his whole threat about dropping people in sanctuary cities and sanctuary states and the like is just it's just chum in the water for the news. It has no basis in reality. He literally he doesn't. It's a snide comment, but because he's president, it's policy. You know. And so many people are, you know, the news, and he's like, watch how they'll react to this. Well, they have to, asshat. You are the president of the United States. When you say stuff, there are mechanisms in place to either justify or make workable that entire element. Like, of course, they have to take it seriously. Now, should the news organizations have learned to, you know, take things with a grain of salt and kind of wink and a nod these things? Maybe, but is that a good situation to be in with the president of the United States going forward? Is that the standard we want to operate? Literally. So I don't personally believe he actually expects this to be policy. Or maybe he does, but just kind of from like somebody yelling at the TV Fox News viewer type. Why don't we just drop it? Hey, why don't we just drop them in those sanctuary cities, man? They want them taking. You want open borders, man? We'll open your border and close mine. How about that? That's the level of thought going into the policy decisions in the president's head right now around this. That's as seriously as he takes it. The minute it happens, though, you're like, okay, yeah. All the asylum seekers are going to be put in sanctuary cities, and they're going to take them in, and those states, because the federal government dumped those people in there, can fast track their citizenship, perhaps. Like, I mean, what ramifications do you put that's a situation where the states have some sort of pushback? One would think, right?
You would think.
Yeah, that the states go, well, we can't just, you delivered them to us, so therefore.
He didn't really think this through. It's just a headline.
Yeah, well, and why is it a headline? Why? Because he's being briefed on the Mueller report, and it's a nightmare. And eventually, it's going to come out, and the longer they wait, the closer to the election it's going to be. And the only thing that he can hope is it's so close to the election that they don't start impeachment proceedings. But the problem is the longer they delay, the more impeachment proceedings are the only way they can get certain stuff. So if they would just release the report, you could soldier through it and create his own narrative, which is what he's attempting to do. That's the entire thing. Like, we'll do, 21-day news cycle. We'll and everybody took the bait. I didn't, but so many people lined up to give William Barr a rusty trombone the second this thing came out. Like, they could not wait for, I told you, Rachel, look, your show's going to go in the crapper now. There was nothing. They agreed with Trump, and like the amount of left-leaning journalists, the amount of alleged
just
rolled over, and now, still, are going, yeah, there's nothing, there's no collusion there. They never found any collusion. You haven't seen the report yet. And the guy telling you that there's no collusion has walked that back 6 ways to Sunday over the last 4 weeks, still hasn't released a report, is redacting not just grand jury testimony, which the Congress has the right to, not just, elements of national security, which wouldn't be in there anyways, or the Mueller team would go, here's the version with that stuff pegged out, not just the stuff that has to deal with ongoing investigations, but anything that's embarrassing to a third party, which, to what William Barr says, you know what a third party is under William Barr's definition? Anyone who wasn't charged. You know who that is?
Anyone who can be embarrassed.
Donald John Trump. That's who. William Barr is saying he has the right to redact anything that references Donald Trump because he was a third party who was not charged.
There's going to be a lot of black on that.
Oh, man. So, and it's an absurdity. Anybody who jumped on William Barr's statement and agreed with it, what is either a complete sap and just emotionally incapable of dealing with the long-term ramifications of an actual investigation, and sort of the mental and psychological resilience necessary to deal with something so complex, and or is actively complicit in, is rooting against America with a capital A in this circumstance, not the America rooting against the MAGA hat wearers, right?
With the lowercase u.
Yeah, right. The America, the Melmahays of America. and I mean the Jimmy Dores of the world, and some of the the like a slice of the Young Turks and a couple of those folks, where they're just like, you got such a chip on their shoulder because Bernie wasn't allowed to be a Semi Dem in the last election and isn't being allowed to be a Semi Dem this time, and is in the exact same position he was the last time around. You know, they're still so angry about that they want this to come down on that side. They want Donald Trump to run roughshod over the government so they can say, I told you so, as if real people aren't being harmed, as if real asylum seekers aren't being separated from their children, as if an 8-year-old wasn't literally expelled from the country away from her family this week. So we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. And I do want to talk about the Ilhan Omar thing because I have an interesting take on this, and I'm curious if people will see if we'll see eye to eye on this aspect. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
My favorite.
Yeah, I say Semi Dem because he joined the Democratic Party to run for president and then stopped being a Democrat afterwards. Even as some of the policies were absorbed by the Democratic Party, which would arguably be the point, and then is running as a Democrat again, even though he's not a Democrat. So Semi Dem. That makes sense? About where there should be a break. Thank you, Hal Vickery, for keeping track. You guys are starting to know. Yeah, a leftist is better than a Dem. No. Left is best. Compared to what? Left of what? Like how far left? How far left are we talking about, A. Smith? Is a communist better than Bernie Sanders? Is that what you mean? Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. I agree. Social Democrat. A soc dem? You mean a socialist Democrat? Of which none of the candidates, including Bernie Sanders, technically are.
Back in 60.
Thank you. Pamela Rysco, that is something the Democratic voter needs to do, not just supporting a particular person, right? Left purity test will lose us this election. Yeah, if we're not careful. As long as Hillary doesn't come back and ruin it all over. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You playing semantics? No, I'm arguing policy. It's only semantics if you think those words don't mean anything. Redacted stars, that's good. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, if you can, please. I appreciate it. Haas policies are best. Haas, whose? HOS policies? I don't know what you mean. His. Whose?
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Criminy, that was loud. I don't know what that was. High. So the Ilhan Omar flap this week.
Explain it to me.
Okay, so I mean, I think it boils down to Ilhan Omar, as far as the right is concerned. It's a little bit of AOC and a headscarf in effect.
Did you see what I tweeted earlier this week?
I don't know. What are we talking about?
I was at the gym on Monday.
Yes.
And that's the only place where I ever see Fox News.
Sure.
And I just glance up at it every now and then, and it will say, it'll have a talking head of AOC, it'll have a talking head of Omar, it'll have then it'll have somebody fighting for their religious freedom, and then it'll be like A dog rescues a baby story. Then it's right back to being afraid of brown congresswomen.
Sure, right. Well, and that's the mental head rotation of your average Fox viewer, of course.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the AOC thing is it's a cake and eat it too Fox and Friends kind of moment in that she gives them a mix of what they like, which is hating the other, hating anyone who's different, fearing a Democratic tide, that it's an exaggeration of the old the most liberal congressperson ever. Like every Democrat who runs for president is the most liberal, like on this ranking, number one most liberal person in the history of the world, right? She gives them that. And she's physically attractive. So they get kind of this, that weird thing of
the other one.
well, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like Fox. It's that Fox and Friends things of making the woman in the short skirt sit in the middle of the couch facing straight down the camera.
That kills me. And that's usually what I see is Fox and Friends.
Yeah, right. So it's creepy, but it's it serves both those interests for Fox News. They have an attractive woman that they can hate. It's perfect. So and in the case of Ilhan Omar, it's an attractive woman they can hate who has a headscarf on, which makes them panic. So this, like it.
She wears it so well too.
She
If there
does.
were anything I could put on my head that made me look that good.
I don't know. I think you'd look good in a toque.
I try that. I do try that from time to time.
Yeah, it's not bad. Or I mean, I think you could actually pull off one of those Richie Sambora hats, like the big semi-Amish looking ones, or the
Really?
the Chris
I'll
DeGarmo.
have to look into that.
I think you could pull that off. You're a big dude. So anyways, point being is it gives there's what's not to to love ratings wise between AOC and Ilhan Omar and Ilhan Omar and AOC both because of their newness don't understand that they're just people driving ahead of their car throwing bear traps out the window, waiting for any misstep. All right. And in the case of the issue with Ilhan Omar of the constant reference to her as being anti-Semitic, which is a thread that they're attaching to all Muslims, because the war between the Abrahamic religions is far too lucrative to let die out. So Christians and Jews must be kind of like uncomfortable bedfellows against Muslims. And the Muslims and Jews that get along in the Middle East must pretend they don't. And like there's just this this big family feud, this Jerry Springer fight between the Abrahamic religions that's been going on for a long time is just too useful when you're trying to have wars for resources and whatnot. It's just people can't let it go, right? So in the case of Ilhan Omar, in my estimation, she stepped in it when she gave that speech, but in a kind of standard politician way. She used vernacular, colloquial language to describe something that you would say in a conversational moment in a speech.
Yep.
And so she said, some people did something in regard to 9/11. And the rest of us started losing our civil liberties, right? And what she meant was some people, some other Muslims did something, and all of us other Muslims who didn't participate in that are having our civil liberties curtailed. And any logical person listening to that would contextualize that in their head. Listening to that, none of us had a problem. So a lot of people, I think, zip past it. It's like when you misread a word and you're like, one of those tests where you're like, oh, there's actually a word omitted if you stop and read it. But because you're zipping through and you assume the word will be there because you've got better things to do with your life than correct grammar nonstop and everything that you read, you just kind of zip past, oh, I didn't realize I should have proofread that or what have you. That simple. Politicians do it all the time. Okay. What she meant was, very clearly, a small group of Muslims did something, so every Muslim is now paying a price because of the kind of people who take the actions of a small group and layer them over onto everyone else. but her language was too colloquial. Was too colloquial and quick for a speech. If she had been recorded doing that, now I don't think for a second that if she had been recorded saying that, talking to a group of people and somebody had shot her on a phone and recorded it, and she was talking to a small group and not giving a speech, that they still would have run with it, but it would not have had the legs that it had because she was giving an open speech. It just wouldn't have. They would have tried, but it just wouldn't have landed. She could have gone, I was speaking in, that obviously there's context that's missing.
Right.
When you're giving a speech, you can decontextualize almost anything in a speech, right? And so they've been waiting for her to do something like this. Now, the reason why the context of it matters, and I think she'll learn a valuable lesson just in giving speeches going forward, because I don't think her meaning was wrong at all. I think I think she was too assumptive. She assumed her audience beyond the walls she was speaking to was
Right. She thought they would be human.
Yes, would be human or would be smart. Or would contextualize what she was saying based on the environment she was in and the group she was talking to. And my message to Ilhan Omar is, they don't, they won't. That's all. This is, just understand that. And AOC handles it a little better now because she understands that she just follows up afterwards. Like, she's really great at repurposing their faux outrage, right? She's like, oh, what I said upset you because, you didn't say.
She really never backs down.
No, and right. And again, Ilhan Omar carries with her the visual baggage for a good portion of people, especially all Fox News viewers, of wearing a headscarf. So that contextualizes what she's saying more than the circumstances she's in. And if you're the first person that a lot of people are engaging with in an area, you carry the uncomfortable weight of being the voice, right, of a lot of people. That's what people in the forefront of any social movement often find, right? And it changes them over time. It changes their linguistic character, how they carry themselves, how they use language to describe what they're doing. They become more careful, they become more specific, and they become better at this, over time. And I have no doubt she will. What I do think she missed, and what I think a lot of people missed, and I'm curious if how people feel about this, is that there is a huge portion of the public that isn't necessarily against, it isn't anti-Muslim in that regard, has carried, listened to Bush when he said, all Muslims aren't this way. Don't blame an entire group for the actions of a few. When those statements were being made, took that to heart to some degree. Mm-hmm. But view Ilhan Omar saying what she said, a few people did something and the rest of us are getting blamed for it, the way a lot of us would look at a man in a MAGA hat standing in front of a group of men saying that a couple of dudes Me Too themselves and the rest of us have to deal with the ramifications and change our behavior because of what those guys did. Because they just did something. Because Weinstein did something. And I think that perspective has a lot more crossover than just the Fox viewer. And that's why it had the impact that it did. That's why it ended up carrying on the New York Post. Now, I think there's an agenda there as well. But I think if you throw seeds on sand, it doesn't matter. But the reason it takes root is because there's something there. So anyways, I'm curious about the chat room's response. I'm going to read through that as we take a break. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, 773-763-9278. Okay, her language wasn't artful, but how is her point not valid? I agree, Amos. That's the point I'm making, is that this is an artful language issue, not a point. I hope AOC stays in Congress and eventually runs for president. I think we can count on that. Although I think she'll more than likely move to Senate, run as a New York senator. I think there's absolutely a circumstance where that happens. One would hope. 9/11, I agree, was done by people. I don't think it's I don't think it's who they say it was. Okay. My grandmother was a Christian, and even she wore a headscarf. We must protect and defend Democrats until something illegal. Let's not franken every little misstep. And all this time, never saw one MAGA hat yet here in Hawaii. People probably know if they did, the locals would put them in the hospital. Well, that's not helpful either. I put up a super chat, and Hal doesn't like it, so I guess it's I put up a super chat, but Hal doesn't like it? What do you mean? What do you mean I didn't like a super chat? I don't understand. Oh, I see. I didn't see that. Pelosi tweeted Omar under a bus on the 9/11 smear. I'm sorry, I had to scroll back to see it. I missed it because I was trying to fix the show. So, I disagree. I think they were trying to find a way to fix the language on that. So it has it, and she's on the fast track to stardom. I definitely. Hal, if Trump dumps off immigrant populations in blue districts, we will win the census. Exactly. Well, and certainly the people who are dumped there certainly raises the chances that they'll fill out the census more honestly, about the number of people there. Yes, Ike, Building 7, asked and answered. I fear for the Rep. Omar's life after the Trump 9/11 video. Well, the threat against her from the dude, his language was interesting. Like, he definitely got arrested because he's a crazy person, but and dangerous. But his thing was,
40 seconds.
Thank you. He said, I'd put a bullet in her head, meaning if I was you, to the person he was calling. And then he said the same thing to the military guys, like, not, I will do it, but if I was them and I was right next to her, I would. So he doesn't understand that that's like, dude, it's the same thing. Like, you're just telling us that if you were anywhere near her, you would. What do you think? How do you think this is going to? Of course, you're going to jail, dummy. But that was previous to this flap, and I think a lot of people react that.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back. So, it is extraordinarily serious, anyone within the sound of my voice, when you threaten violence on anyone, much less a politician or a public figure. And doing so will at minimum get you a visit from some authority figures, and hopefully, if there's any seriousness at all to what you've been saying, you will get a little gray room to stay in for a very long time. You could just and at the same time, though, I think it's very important regularly to remind people that no matter how many nutcase people like that exist, much to the, sort of in line with what Ilhan Omar had said, that just because this subset of human beings does something does not mean the rest of the group is tainted with that, and also does not mean that you should expect that vile behavior from the rest of them. And that is part of the due diligence of being a human being, of recognizing that, and sometimes it's tough work. Sometimes you hear a Southern accent from a dude in a cowboy hat, and you're just like, racist, going to be whatever the third thing out of this dude's mouth is going to be. It's going to be racist, and it's not. And then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I was quite judgmental. I didn't, that was unfair of me. But it's a habit that a lot of us fall in, because that's the nature of news. I mean, the news makes it feel like that if there was an apartment fire in New Delhi, there was an apartment fire down your block, and that that fire could spread down the block and set your house on fire. And if a news story is told that way, and it's effective and it draws attention and makes you stay tuned and you stick around through the commercial break, that in and of itself has been successful and drives eyeballs and ears in the direction of news. And it is the responsibility of the listener and the viewer to contextualize what they're hearing and what they're saying, and recognize that what Ilhan Omar said about the Muslim community is true of humans in general. And it is part of the messaging factor of recognizing genuine threats, that we also not, get drawn into this idea that we are surrounded by threats that don't exist, and cause us to distrust and hate and divide from our fellow human beings, based on these separate cases. In the exact same way that, so the sentiment of what Ilhan Omar was saying is not just true of Muslims post 9/11. It's true about how humans should interact with each other in general. It is a position of peace and respect, that we should find. So, like the irony, that like that's I guess it's not ironic that Fox would attach to it, but that everybody else, would kind of subset that out into just having to do with the topic that she's talking about, and then engage in the behavior themselves. In some ways, that's the heavy lifting. Like I said, that's the heavy lifting of being a liberal or a progressive. Is we're talking about having a genuinely diverse party, and I think that again, one of the most uncomfortable aspects of this election cycle will be the fact that we have so many great candidates, and they will seem to be at each other's throats occasionally, but in reality, they agree on more than they disagree on. And it's just a matter of who you think will probably be better at actually implementing and getting those policies passed. And there was a Gallup poll about, who views themselves in the Democratic Party. The majority used to view themselves as center left or centrists, and that liberal was and then there were conservative Democrats, and then there were liberal Democrats, and liberal has grown over time. It is now back to being an acceptable phrase from when it was, I think in 2008, there was a, like an all-time low in the use of the word liberal. Well, it had been that particular word had been vilified so strongly, and successfully, by the, what's Eric's name? Eric, the dude who's the word smith for the Republicans, who has those little weird little round tables.
Oh,
Edwards,
yeah.
Eric Edwards, is that what it? Yeah. Anyways, who has his little focus groups, and their little focus group, decided we need to attack the word liberal and make it a negative, and liberals, because sensitive, allowed that to happen, gave over the word liberal, in some ways started using progressive. I use it kind of interchange, I interchange progressive and liberal kind of, in a vernacular, and they are not the same thing, but I kind of use them half and half. Always viewed myself as a liberal my entire life, but as that word got less powerful and had a negative attached to, I think more people associated themselves away from that word as just, Democrats, or were scared into during war referring to themselves as centrists or conservative Democrats, just verbally, because you can, polling. One of the things about polling is that people will often don't tell you how they really behave or really think, but how they would like to be perceived as really behaving and really thinking. So still acting like a liberal, still believing liberal and progressive concepts, but referring to themselves as like, I view myself as a middle of the road, Democrat, because I believe the middle of the road Democrat supports workers' rights and a living wage and gay rights and environmental protections and reasonable regulations on toxins in our environment. That's that might sound like liberal to you, but as a Democrat, that sounds middle to me, right? So that's the language that they're using.
Yep.
So thank you, Mark Green. Frank Luntz was the name.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was
the wordsmith.
Yes, was the dude who would kind of corral what word and phrase will we attack that the Democrats are using right now, and how will we undermine their messaging during it. So, over the course of the last decade or so, though, liberal as a word has made a comeback, and is it because of some of the shortcomings around the phrase progressive, or is it because certain progressives have misused it, or is it just it faded, the damage done to it faded over time? Whatever has happened, people are, and some people will say it's because the ideology of the Democratic Party has moved left. I disagree. I think it's simply a comfort with the word again, because it's back to like 1998 numbers, whatever. But the interesting thing was, and this was the part that stuck out to me, and again, chat room, I'm very curious about this, and callers, if you will, 773-763-9278, is that there was the two biggest groups within the Democratic Party as far as referencing themselves, or people who refer to themselves as liberal, and people who refer to themselves as centrist Democrats. There is obviously a section of Democrats that refer to themselves as conservative Democrats. Which you would, these days sounds like liberal Republican, right? There's like, how dare those people exist, that you would call yourself a conservative Republican. Well, it turns out, according to that Gallup poll, that the majority of people who refer to themselves as conservative Democrats are Black and Hispanic. That a large portion of Black and Hispanic Democrats, a sizable number, refer to themselves as conservative Democrats. Now, does that mean that the word conservative means the same to them as it does to Republicans? Absolutely not. But it is curious that in the self-identification labeling that people are doing when they are answering polls, they are not saying, well, of course I'm a liberal Democrat, or of course I'm a centrist Democrat. They are calling themselves conservative Democrats. And when we talk about the diversity of the Democratic Party and the diversity of the voices and listening to people and allowing people who have been marginalized to participate in the dialogue, it is a curious factor that the very groups that we are allegedly talking about, as far as opening the party up to broader voices, and certainly when it comes to minority voices, that the addition of those minority voices is not falling in the liberal or centrist side of the Democratic Party. It is actually much closer to the center of the country than the center of the Democratic Party. Now, again, do those words overlap? Is there a part where people refer to themselves as conservative because their version of that word, it is the equivalent of moving to a country and absorbing the religion of that's dominant around, whether you're a participant in it or not? Is it a better label for you than the other way around? that's a curious thing for me. And in allowing those voices, and in our our purity test politics that are happening right now, it turns out that in the exclusion of centrist and conservative voices within the Democratic Party, the voices that are most commonly sidelined turn out to be Black and Hispanic Democratic voters. That seems counterintuitive. We got to take a break. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. So let's see. I want to know a lot more about RFK and JFK's. Have we gone just completely into just the conspiracy talk? Is this? Can we sideline this for a post show? Can we do that? Is that okay? Did you know there's a party in Canada called Progressive Conservative Party? It seems like an oxymoron. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I don't like. Because I always, conservative always sounded like a positive to me because I grew up a Boy Scout. And so conservation was all about conserving natural resources, right? I was taught conservation as a child. And then, the Republican Party has nothing to do with conservation. They can't wait to sell off every natural resource, burn every tree to the ground, suck every drop of oil and gas out of the ground, and have no backup. Like, there is the energy plan of the Republican Party is the exact same as their health plan. You use it up until, and have no replacement. Burn it down and have nothing to like wind, solar, micronuclear, thorium reactors, all the stuff that you would have to focus on as replacements for coal and oil and natural gas. There is no point where they're like
60 seconds.
Thank you. Where they're going to have to, like, oh, well, we're going to run out of this stuff. Maybe we should come up with a follow-up. None of that doesn't exist. Same thing with their health plan. We're going to have the best health plan you've ever seen. What is it? I don't know. Eventually, at a future date. Your big threat to the dinosaur survival is the meteor. Yeah, right. Okay, I'll relent. No more conspiracy talk. Thank you, monkeys. Let's see. Conservatives today do not want to conserve anything. Yeah, well, that's like certainly Republicans. I mean, like I said, conservative, progressive sounds like nationalist, socialist, right? We were discussing conspiracy theories. I know. I remember Paulson sweeping the floor after the election in a lone spotlight. Oh.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
So we've learned a lot today. We've learned that Assange's cat, Michi, pooped everywhere. That Assange had a what we would call what they called in the chat room a dead man switch of Ecuadorian blackmail material. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Sandra. By the way, anybody who's listening, thank you guys for sticking around and working through us in the beginning with their our streaming issues. I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. If you would like and you want to help improve the show to the level that it is when I'm home in Vegas, here you can always be a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/HalSparks. There are multi-levels of joining and supporting and all that kind of stuff. And to it, I need to talk to you after the show, Johnny Million. So give me a call when we're done. Just on a side note, yes. We found out that Lenin Moreno, the president of Ecuador, accused Assange of installing electronic distortion equipment in the embassy, blocking security cameras, confronting and mistreating guards, and gaining access to security files without permission, and making it so that they had to keep a lot of their papers in a safe while he was there. Apparently, and that it cost them $55,000 a year to keep him in this ultra secure suite, which
Did he like leave the suite at all?
Yeah, he wandered all over the place.
Like outside of the embassy?
Well, according to that documentary, he snuck out a bunch. He would have a disguise. I don't know. I don't think he's been out since Christmas, judging from what he looks like right now. He was civil. Like, is that Mummy? Mummy, why does Santa Claus have an Australian accent, Mummy? Get out of here, kid. Your mother's a war criminal. What did you just say, young man? Santa just called my grandmama a war criminal. Well, she voted for Labor. She voted for the Conservative Party. That's what she gets. What do you want? What do you want in your stocking, little boy, besides video of the Ecuadorian prime minister in his underpants? So
I don't know how we started down that path, but you could just
You
could
could
have
ki-
that riff all day long,
you-
as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, you kind of apparently WikiLeaks let's see. I want to read this little piece of it. It says attendees said it struck them odd that such a high-powered players would decide to attend a party hosted by a small country's ambassador. They noted that Mrs. Thomason and Kerry's aide were dressed in black tie for the ball. This is the Kerry and his aide who came to talk to them, and then he lost his Wi-Fi. Ms. Thomason, reached by phone, said she had been invited at the very last minute by someone's wife who couldn't come, and that she did not recall having any conversations with the ambassador, much less with Julian Assange. WikiLeaks struck back soon after, on October 16th, the day after Mr. Assange's internet was protected. WikiLeaks tweeted a code known in its parlance as, quote, an insurance file, and signaled that an upcoming leak involving Ecuador was imminent. And then, ta-da! It's his internet got turned back on, and they didn't release it. So again, you either believe the information deserves the light of day or you don't. You don't blackmail people with it. The minute you do that, you're no longer a journalist, and that's why you're going to jail. Julian Assange is not somebody who believes that someone's wife needs to know their husband is cheating on them for her own safety. Julian Assange is the person who blackmails the husband and gets his rent paid using the threat. Hal Vickery in our chat room says extortion is not part of journalism. That's right. And so anyways, that's like we learned that little piece about Michi and Assange this week, and also that Ilhan Omar was not just making a point about her, how Muslims were treated post 9/11, but how human beings need to start engaging with human beings on a broader sense, and not using a small slice of human beings to paint the rest of those groups, no matter how convenient, easy, or fearful they may feel in that moment. It's super necessary, because that will be the thing that is leveraged against us in the upcoming elections. That's
How have we not talked about my old man crush, Michael Evanhati?
oh yeah, so sad.
The fall from grace.
Seriously, just and on a level like, I mean, I think probably had there been like one charge against him, some of us would have gone, oh, they came after him. See what happened?
Yep.
Like, oh, they're
He played with fire too long.
yeah, but he was like, dude, you have a flamethrower. You're not even playing with fire. You actually have put the flamethrower down. Like now, I'm amazed repeatedly that he has now become kind of a Roger Stone character in all this. And to that, for the record, I say, if the allegations against him are true, the hell with them.
Yep.
Period. End of story. And again, that goes towards does that mean that some of the stuff he was saying about Donald Trump wasn't true? Of course not. A lot of it was, but that's not the point. And I think it serves us in.
But he's not above the law either. No,
exactly. Right. And which brings us to Donald Trump, who apparently, according to William Barr, is. Let's be abundantly clear that the entire purpose going forward, and everyone must, like, as we go forward over the next couple of weeks. And by the way, this idea that the Mueller report's going to be released this week, get ready for what looks like the leftovers. Imagine a magazine that a kidnapper was using to cut letters out of to make his ransom note, but the guy can't spell, and the person that he is kidnapped has been kidnapped from a Polish family and is being held.
Where are you going with this?
I'm going to work with me. A Polish family, and who works for a Norwegian Finnish import export company that has deals with China. Basically, every consonant, all the characters in this magazine have been cut out because this guy can't figure out how to spell this correctly. So he's had to cut out every TH, P, R, S, and K so many times that the magazine itself looks, it looks like a fishing net. That's what we're gonna get. Here's yeah, exactly. Understand this. William Barr is about to release a version of the Mueller report that removes all reference to Donald Trump except things that can be read as exculpatory. Anything in it that says that Trump was ignorant of something or that there was no proof that he had knowledge of something will still be in it.
And what's he getting for it?
Well, and again, I think this boils down to what's he not getting for it? What's not coming out? What's not present? What's not happening? What, that it's the Lindsey Graham factor. What information is not getting out? Because at this point, the fact that the RNC and the DNC were both hacked, and everything about the RNC, from its fundraising to the organizations around it, to the NRA, to some of the biggest Republican donors in the country and all their related legal stuff, has been hacked as well. I think we need to look at all that stuff through that context. If it doesn't sound like an honest answer, it sounds like a blackmail victim. If they're behaving like the Ecuadorians had to behave, somebody's got a dead man switch with their info on it. Thanks for listening, guys. Johnny Million, I'm going to call you later this afternoon. I'm going to do a post show right now since we're hanging out with the chat room. Thank you so much for listening to WCPT 820. Dick K is coming up after this. Think about being a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/Hal Sparks. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will smooth this thing out over time. We'll see you next week. What's happening? Okay. So complete version will fall off the back of the track. The problem is, Brad, that it exists. We'll talk about that in 1 second. Hold on, if you will. I'm going to disconnect from Chicago. There we go. And so I will no longer need, let's see, don't think, yeah, it's a good idea. Okay, I'll do it that way. I don't need my, I'll need headphones just for referential stuff. Choppy start, but it ended up just fine. Thank you, Hal Vickery. I apologize for that. I think we're somewhere between dead laptop and new software, and I'm going to have to figure out which of the two it is. So, yeah. I mean, I could, I wish OBS didn't suck so much. And I wish Wirecast worked on 2 machines at once. And the Mimo Live stuff is reasonable, but it's the settings. I figured out the settings in Vegas just fine, and I thought I had them here, and then they of course got unplugged, and I had to rebuild everything. So there you go. Are you going to talk about conspiracies, Hal? If so, I'm leaving. No, not particularly. I was just saying we were tabling it. Great show. Despite the tech difficulties, we expect nothing less. Thank you. Can't stop lying. I appreciate it. Took some flack at the beginning, but Hal managed to stick to the landing. Thank you. That's what I try for. I think the reason liberal has a rehabilitated connotation is largely due to a reaction against how extreme the right has gotten. That's certainly something to that. Absolutely. The right has always benefited from two aspects. One, conservative has always had a relatively positive thing, even when misused. The phrase, the word itself, has more respect than liberal, because liberal got associated with sort of 60s drug-oriented sexually loose behavior, which, while fine for a time in a post-AIDS world, has so much fear attached to it that it is ultimately sidelined by that aspect. Whereas conservative always does have the root of conservation, which it has this kind of baseline of, or perception, anyways, not true in actuality or in actual application, but has the baseline illusion that it is about protecting, caring for, in that root. In the same way that left has always been associated with sinister and less and lower and all that kind of stuff. And this comes from somebody who has a left-handed sister and a left-handed son, and is aware of this. Whereas right has always been linguistically attached to correct as well as a direction. So you benefit from, conservatives and the right have always benefited from those accidental acts of language. So, they get to carry, and they benefited from having an elephant while we have a donkey, that kind of thing, like stubborn jackass against the slow moving, beautiful animal that never forgets. Meanwhile, if there's anybody that's going to shoot an elephant, it's going to be a Republican. Like you're going to find very few Democrats who are trophy hunters who would kill an elephant. How can't the House just ask Mueller for a copy of the complete report? Barr let that slip this week. Yeah, Brett, I saw that. Yes, I believe they can. And I think there is that's where we're going to end up. Eric was shooting element. This is true. It all started back with Nixon and the moral majority, silent majority, right? Yeah, Brad, I do think there is I do think somebody right now in the Capitol is rooting through the law, looking for the single line of legal code that allows them to request the Mueller report unredacted from Mueller himself, either by calling him as a witness, asking him a question, and wanting to verify what he said based on the report. And if you can't see that, they can't do oversight. The most obvious thing for me would be call him before the committee, ask something. And this is where you go, okay, the redacted report comes out, bring Mueller in, ask him about a part that's redacted that he doesn't agree should be redacted, then go, we need to see the unredacted report so I can see if what he says matches up. I need to know if his statement about it matches up with what he said and what Barr has said in front of this committee. And it is a crucial aspect of oversight that be allowed. There's legally, that seems the most sound thing. Can't the House subpoena Mueller's entire report? Yes, but they have to have context, and that would be the context, is what I'm saying. Reading the uninhabitable earth as the cushioning wagers which Trump sibling will be arrested first. Arrested, I don't know. I think there's a very strong chance that both the Trump organization and the Kushner organization will lose their business license in the state of New York. Does that mean they'll stop being able to do business in the United States? I don't know. They might have to move to the Cayman Islands or something like that. But there might be some baseline protections then that are not afforded them, no longer being a U.S. company, which is what I would hope for. The root of liberal, as is with liberty, means free. Why are we losing to Republicans with false connotation of the word liberal? I agree, Sam Blam Lamb. I completely agree. So, well, the so the idea that the English language is half French and half German, essentially, that it's the Latin language that came up through those two chains, and the idea is that you can tell which words came from where because all the pretty words are French and all the ugly words are all the all the pretty words are French, all the ugly words are German. So, the old adage is poop is French, but shit is German. So the idea that the harsher language has a Germanic angle and the softer language has a French angle, liberal and conservative kind of fall into those things. And as we become a more science-based or perceive ourselves as more science and rigor-based society, the Germanic gets more attention and service, and softer words become the purview of the artful and the poetic, as opposed to the specific. And the issue therein is, the living of life is a liberal act. The preserving of life is a conservative one. Is kind of the perception, and these two things must be balanced. Yeah, Trump's sister. That was fascinating. Oh my God, that woman was so she was an inactive judge. She was like basically she hadn't heard a case in 2 years or something like that. And I don't know if she was benefiting for, like, she was getting a salary more than likely, I would guess, as a way. Okay. So yeah, Marianne Trump Barry. And I want to see if she gets, used to be a federal appellate judge, and then all of a sudden she retired. And let's see. So she was under investigation. It's a judicial review. Now it stops the judicial review because you don't continue to investigate somebody who no longer works at your company or your circumstance. Now, yeah, that's right. Yes, Marianne Barry. I know. It's the weirdest thing. Like the way names fold in on themselves in this, it's one of those matrixy things. Anyways, so it kind of bothers me that if a judge retires, the investigation starts. You mean stops? Yeah. Agreed. I think if you're a judge and you're accused of committing criminal acts as a judge, it should carry forward. Now, the thing is, it was an ethics consideration. So the limitations of an ethics thing has probably letter of the law says that you stop working there, the ethics thing goes away, which is one of those ways that they probably get rid of problem judges by saying, look, retire and we won't go after you, but you don't make a peep. And and there's value in that on occasion. And so to have that exist, it's one of those things where people will take advantage of its existence, of that law's existence. So yeah. But I don't think it stops the tax investigation into it from going forward. And as a matter of fact, it may actually draw more attention to it because she dodged it, and that the state charges, for example, against her, as in New York, could very well be on the horizon, and seemingly so. How about the tax fraud thing? Could still be charged to Trump, I think. Yes, it can. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The hush money runs heavy, right? How about the let's see. It ceases to be useful when the judge is part of a criminal enterprise. Yeah. And Trump can be charged for this. All the siblings technically can, if they bring a case in like Southern District, New York, or there's a federal case against. Now he can't. There's a question about, can Trump be charged while he's in office with a federal tax charge from decades ago? His family sure can. Everybody can. Do they roll him up? Would his own sister roll him up? There's no reason to believe why not. There's no reason to believe she wouldn't. Boy Scout words. They make a distinction between liberal and liberty. Liberal bad, liberty good. Newt Gingrich's words is a key mechanism of control. Yeah. I wonder how the New York media is covering this. Well, I mean, the New York Times is certainly doing it. I don't know what the in terms of, let's see what let's see. Yeah. So, let's see this: New York Times, CNN, Vox, all the Root, abovethelaw.com. Yeah, I mean, in terms of local stuff, the New York Times is your kind of main one. Yeah. Yeah, so basically the way she was able to dodge this was that she had, it's an ethics probe as a judge. If she's no longer a judge, you can't try her on ethics because it's no longer your jurisdiction. She can be an unethical human being as long as she's not an ethical judge. Now, if they go back and say that she ruled differently, and this is the interesting thing, and I'm curious about this, is that if she applied her judgment in a case years ago, um, you know, and it affected the outcome of one based on the idea that she was sort of protecting her own scheme. Yeah. That's that's the curious one. If they, if somebody decides to, file suit that they were, that she ruled against them, in a way that was to cover her tax scheme situation, and they decided to retry it or go back against that would be the trick. Now, I don't know what kind of law she practiced per se, or what kind of like she was, let's see, Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. Let's see, career assistant U.S. attorney for New Jersey, 74 to 83. Civil Division 74 to 75, Appeals Division 76 to 82, served deputy chief from 76 to 77, served as executive assistant U.S. State's attorney from 81 to 82, first assistant U.S. attorney from 1981 to 83. So I don't know if let's see. So she was nominated initially by Reagan. Let's see, confirm. Let's see. And she was put on the appeals court by Bill Clinton. Replaced H. Lee Sorokin, who had retired in 96. Clinton had nominated Raymond Raymar to the seat in 98, but the nomination was never given a hearing by the Senate Judiciary Committee. So she got the Merrick Garland treatment. Clinton nominated somebody, they wouldn't even let her in, so Raymond Raymar got nominated. The Republicans wouldn't even give him a hearing. So she was put in. She was unanimously confirmed by the Senate in 99, received her commission in September. In 2006, she testified in support of Samuel Alito. She assumed, let's see. She's been in, quote, senior status. It's a form of semi-retirement for U.S. federal judges. A judge must be at least 65 years old and served in the federal courts for at least 15 years to qualify. Let's see. Yeah. And then she stepped down from her senior status in February after Trump became president. She's been on that ever since. She retired from active service February 11th, 10 days after that, became a, when 10 days after they opened the investigation into her. She received an award in 2004 from, let's see, that Seton Hall University School of Law gives to women who excel in law and public service. She said, I say to the women out there, remember how difficult it was for women like Justice O'Connor starting out. Even though she graduated with top grades, she had to take a job as a legal secretary. Remember how far we have come. And Justice Sandra Day O'Connor presented her with that award. Marion Barry is 83 years old. I don't think she's afraid to go to jail. Trump and his mob family values are becoming too much for me to bear. It needs to end. Vote straight Democrat in 2020. Agreed, Amos. She was only part-time anyway. Right. Well, she was vote artery blue no matter who. Yeah. Booker is now running for president. Yeah, he officially said so. He's actually last in line in all the Democratic poll. And I mean, I like the guy. Let's see. Yeah. So currently, according to let's see. This is Real Clear Politics doing all the polls. Morning Consult has Biden up by 9. The Hill Harris X poll has him up by 17. Quinnipiac has Biden plus 10. Harvard Harris has Biden plus 18. Fox has Biden plus 8. Emerson has him as a tie, but it doesn't say with who in there. And CNN has him by plus 8. Emerson's the outlier in that circumstance. Who's he supposed to be tied with? I'll look that up in there. Let's see. This one's got as in the overall Booker is 6th. Just above Mayor Pete. And Klobuchar right after him, then Gillibrand, then Castro, Inslee, Hickenlooper, Yang, Gabbard, and Delaney. Yeah, that's your from Klobuchar, like post Klobuchar, like, and I like Gillibrand a lot. But from her on down, those are all like VP or bust candidates. Now, I think there's a very strong chance that the VP might be up, in the upper category. And I think that's a smart move, whoever goes, like take on somebody within that group because they have the name recognition. They can partner up. You bring their supporters over into the group. It makes it much easier for the rest of the field to support them overall. Somebody supports Gabbard. Yeah. Well, 0.6 Russians, I guess. Biden's up by 10 over everyone else, including over Sanders. I balk sometimes at the inclusion of Sanders, being that he's running as a Democrat, but isn't actually one, which is very curious. I think it would behoove the Democratic Party or both parties actually to say, you got to be a member of our party for at least one full election cycle before you can run as a candidate in our party. Otherwise, what ultimately does the party label or the party platform mean anyways? Otherwise people should just, run as independents, or we should, or you run, blind tickets in that regard. Like we don't put party on the ticket at all, and whoever can get on the ballot gets on the ballot, that idea. But if you're going to have a party, raise money as a party, govern as a party, which isn't going to go away anytime soon, then you should be a member of that party. I'm just saying. And if that rule was in place, it would eliminate a lot of the, the flailing about that happened when Clinton was running against Bernie in the first place. If we are around 75 years from now, we will know the real truth. I don't know about what I voted for Benjamin Netanyahu. Right. peeking in from Boston. Hi. Oh, hi. Welcome aboard, Ginger. I thought the Democrats did institute this rule, but I could be wrong. Vote for the candidate, not just the party. Well, in this case, I would layer up. I mean, unless you want everything to stall in the Senate, I would say vote party this time around. You can't, like, the idea of like slicing it thin is absurd. Better he run in the Democratic primary than a spoiler like Nader or Ross Perot. To some degree, Evernote, but I think there is an element of reality that if he did it as an independent without using the Democratic Party basically as a super PAC to support him, he would peter out much faster. Bernie left the party in Vermont, joined for the election, left the party after the election, and now wants to be back in again and wonders why party insiders don't endorse him. Right, exactly. Why would you? He is no bonehead like Ralph Nader. Yeah. Sanders and Warren will better help us in the Senate. I think that's true. Although I think Warren's got real strength, and again, I always had wanted her to be the person who runs the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and I think with Biden in there and a blue Senate, that would be the thing to do. How you just slipped into Martin Short there? I'm just saying. Oh well, perhaps it is. Who can say? I don't know. Maybe it is the greatest thing in the whole world. I must say. I found my way there eventually. What's not fair? Jack. There is no greater imperative in the next election than beating Donald Trump into the ground so he can never get back up again, or as the Churchill put it, rid the earth of his shadow. Yeah, I mean, clearly, there has to be a part where you recognize that anything that allows the Republican Party any control over any aspect of the government is tantamount to supporting them in doing so. And if that's what you're doing, then say that's what you're doing and just do it. But this idea that like it's perfect time for a third party to come out of nowhere, like not in a million years. This is not the time. Jim, if Senator Warren ran in 2016, we'd be in a different place today. Or if Hillary tapped Warren for VP instead of Kane, that's entirely possible. I think Kane was a mistake in those regards. I think but again, you have to. We need to contextualize what people are going through half the time. You get the first time a woman is running where it looks like we'll have a woman as president. The thing that a female candidate was ice skating uphill against and arguably still is this idea of perception of strength, or emotional control, all the baggage that being a woman brings to the electorate cycle, which is an absurdity if you are a thinking human being, but if you're reacting, it exists, and if that's part of it, you're dealing with it. You're not just looking for the thinking voter. You're looking for every voter, or as many as you can. And you got to recognize, how do I address and alleviate some of the fears that exist? If she has a very overpowering, vice president, for example, the illusion that her entire presidency was based on a powerful male figure that was actually running things behind the scenes. Like for Hillary Clinton to have an equivalent Dick Cheney, for example, like George Bush did, has more of an impact on women in power going forward. And therefore you kind of need to pick someone, and absolutely right. Sixes, she did win with Kane, but not at a margin that would have that broke through the electoral college in that regard. I'm so tired of labels. You should come up with a label for that, Charleston Duck. Most voters are not thinking voters. They go by their gut. I would not say that that's true materially, but I would say a significant enough portion of them do. So, but anyways, the point being, let's see. I don't know who I'm for yet, but I'm leaning towards Warren. That's cool. The choice of Kane was a bad one, in my opinion. There were others to choose from. I agree, Pamela. I think they were trying to make a decision where the person was, certainly supportive, was a decent human being that would help, was well liked and yada yada, but was not seen as a Biden where, Biden's policy pushes in Afghanistan were ultimately were very positive, try and get us out. He was one of the biggest forces towards, ending the Iraq war and those kind of things. Like he was very vociferous while he was vice president about these things. And that constant aspect of his presidency made him look like he was overpowering Obama's decision making, for example. Um, so when you have the first female president, that the eyes are going to be on that. So picking somebody as forceful as that, who might come in and kind of, try to steamroll about certain policy issues or be perceived as being so, would affect how her presidency was viewed. So I think they made a decision based on that, of like some, kind of gave her a Dan Quayle in some ways. And I like Kane, and he's not stupid like Quayle, but that's what I think they were aiming at, like kind of, a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy candidate, mostly harmless. Let's see. Agreed. If you're a presidential candidate, you must strategize according to the Electoral College. You don't win a basketball game by scoring more runs. Right. Netanyahu sure seemed to wrap himself up with Trump. Well, yeah. Hal, don't. Which Hal are we talking to? Are we talking about me or Hal Vickery? Let's see if this. Does it allow me to see? What the heck? Oh, me. Okay, good. We could really use a mostly harmless government right now. Exactly. I think, Mike, you might be onto something there. I think that's what the appeal of Biden is for a lot of people, is this kind of like back to normal. Let's have a reset. Let's, this is somebody we trust. He's not, too far out on the reservation on any issues, but we feel like he will help move the ball down the field legitimately. He doesn't scare off a lot of voters. There's a lot of crossover support for him. He's, his cancer moonshot is something everybody can get behind. He views himself as an Obama Biden Democrat. That's the way he views himself. So progressives will never accept neo-Nazi and white nationalist votes. Sure they do. They did. Some of them some Bernie supporters voted for Trump as a protest. Some of them accepted support from those people tacitly by not, verbally decrying it when those people supported, Bernie in some stretches. It happens. They might not vocally do it, but but the practicality of that, and like that's not even, progressives will never accept neo-Nazi and white nationalist votes. It like that statistically is so not the issue at all. The volume of human beings you are talking about in that sentence is beyond marginal so as to have zero effect. Jack Richards is more intelligent but honorable. Sorry, Jack Richards, you've been gaslighted by a war criminal. Oh. Prince Hal of Kentucky. Colonel, actually, but thank you. Didn't Musk put a copy of yes, he did. I think it's in the glove box, right? Oh, hey, thanks, Zelda. Yeah, it's not bad. 56 likes, 192 watching. Yeah, everybody smash that like if you could for me. That'd be really cool. I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're new. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Carl. Yeah, don't panic, right? Which is, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, as it is. Yeah. Yeah, lick that like button. Ever, okay. Some Hillary primary supporters in 2008 voted for McCain rather than President Obama as well. In fact, a higher percentage than Bernie primary supporters who went to Trump. I don't know that what that percentage number is, Evernom. I'd like to see a citation on that, but as far as volume of voter goes, I've always said if somebody wants you to see the percentage, it's the actual number isn't that impressive, and if they want you to see the actual number, its percentage based on the rest of humans isn't that impressive. You need both. How about the Falcon Heavy launch and a triple core landing? I know that's like stunning. Breaking news: MSNBC Mueller report to come out Tuesday. Yeah, well, they've been talking. The redacted version supposed to come out in the next few days, so Tuesday's the day. That, like, again, the perforated version of it. Yeah, the Babelfish will ultimately probably be a little like encoder headphone. We're well along the way. Bernie rehired someone who voted for Jill Stein. Yeah. Yeah, the redacted Mueller report. This is just the tipping point of getting the subpoenas going. Yeah. The Emerson poll has Biden up by 37. There's only a few where he's in single digits and only 2. Well, that was before he announced. There's only 2 that have him in single digits within what would be the margin of error, which would be 3 to 5%, plus or minus 3 or 5, which is wide, let's see. Yeah, it comes out during congressional recess to boot. Exactly. It's not an accident. There's a shitty Babel ear translation earwig, but it's too buggy. Yeah, well, that stuff's coming out eventually. Anyways, what do you think the probably impeachment hearings in the Judiciary Committee are? Well, that depends on if they're able to get a copy of his taxes. If there's a fight to stop them from getting his taxes. He could literally, we could sidestep all this stuff, and he could end up doing an impeachment. There could be an impeachment hearing about him obstructing getting his taxes, because that's black letter law. That's super obvious. They have the right to look at anybody's taxes. The president isn't special. They get to look at his taxes. If the Congress, if we were in a situation where the Congress could look at everybody's taxes in the country except the president's, we have a king. We're a democracy. Even as a republic, there's a responsibility for equality under the law. And yes, Joe is a good guy. People want Biden because he's not extreme, period. They want nice and mellow. Yeah, well, they want stable. And I think that's what people are, looking for right now. Because I personally, and I think a lot of you would like it if our lives could go back to not worrying about our government lurching left and right all the time. Like, I feel like one of the problems with, like, we find ourselves in the middle of this Instagram society, where everything is social media, and it's all about whether or not, attention people get, likes, and all this stuff. And ultimately, we have a government reflective of that, sort of the Kardashianing of the government, when in reality, it should operate like traffic lights. Occasionally, you recognize that some of them need to be fixed, but for the most part, you go on with your life and you deal with the stops and starts that are legit. Joe's a good guy, but Joe can be an undisciplined guy, and that worries me. It's interesting, Carl, because the stuff that he's said over the last couple of weeks that everybody's saying, well, here he goes again. He's screwing around. He's saying stuff that's, he's going to create a problem for himself. Those very things that he has said that some of the news, and especially MSNBC, has jumped on as like, oh man, here he goes. He stuck his foot in his mouth again. those things actually cross over and are seen as a positive or an okay fail from the non-purist voter. Like there's a huge swath of voters out there who don't like the purity test aspect of things, don't like the the sort of the political correct ratchet that everybody's under, and appreciate, like, Biden is like the Nerf version of the machine gun that Trump is playing with every day. Like, he makes these mistakes, but they're relatively harmless by comparison because he means well. In the same way that Ilhan Omar's verbal mistakes, Ilhan Omar's and Joe Biden had the same moments. What they are saying, in the spirit of what they are saying, was absolutely right. The stuff they said was is easily manipulated or modified by your enemies or whatever. But allowing your enemy to mess with your meaning and calling them on it is now actually a functional form of campaigning and pushing on stuff. You say something that can be taken out of context, you let them do it, and you go, this is what you guys do. You guys complain about fake news, and then there you go. You're not concerned that his seeing justification of his actions are alienating towards women voters. I think no, because I think look at the volume of women voters. Look at the volume of women voters who voted for Trump. Look at the volume of women voters in the African American and Hispanic community that view themselves as conservatives, who like Biden and associate him with Obama and don't take those things very seriously. And I think, look at what he said. What he said was, I apologize for the harm I caused if I made anyone feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to apologize for doing what I did because I was not seeking to make anyone uncomfortable or take advantage. If I was trying to take advantage or I was trying to make someone uncomfortable, I would apologize for that, but I'm not. And that's a language issue. That's, and again, it goes right up with Ilhan Omar. I don't think she was saying that what the 9/11 hijackers did was just a thing. I think she was saying they did something and the rest of us are tagged with that something. It is simply a language thing. And I think a large portion of voters are so annoyed right now at the hyper parsing, and sort of the like the violent kind of jumping on with both feet, all of that stuff. They are so annoyed by it, they would rather have somebody making mistakes and surviving it. Abrams has denied that she and Biden and her people and Biden people have discussed being in a ticket. Cool. I think that's a smart one. I've always liked Biden Harris as a ticket. I think that's right up there in the same way. I also think it, bounces, it creates, you have to have a strategy, president to vice president, going forward. I do think that was the problem with Kane more than anything, was the idea that Hillary picked someone you couldn't imagine being president. So, that's got to be part of it. You got to pick somebody that you can imagine being president. I agree, Hal. I found that people who we refer to as purists are actually just intolerant human beings. Well, I would even go farther than that, Bob, in that I would say that they are hypocrites, because they make similar mistakes. They make similar broadly vilifying or racist or bigoted statements, but because they feel they're in a position of, a victimhood or siding with those who they view as victims, that it's okay. Hillary was after the Christian voters. I think there was a little bit of that, but I think there were better options for that. They're ideologues, right? But the problem is they're hypocritical ideologues. because you can't say we're for humans to be, people should be allowed to be themselves, and then the minute somebody's themselves, you jump on them with both feet and then go and act towards someone who misspeaks or misbehaves in a way where they literally mean no harm, and you treat them as if they mean harm, and then you wonder where the Republicans who believe in the gay agenda come from. It's the same person. And again, I'm much more supportive of a liberal who came to it over time through their growing respect for their fellow human being and their understanding that people should be given enough room to live their lives as full human beings, that part of gay marriage is gay divorce, for example, and that part of a woman's right to choose will include most of the time her choosing to have a baby. That's a pro-choice is a choice to also have a baby a good portion of the time, more often than not, quite frankly. But in the cases where it doesn't, the Republicans are like, all women who want choice, even in the case of rape, incest, or what have you, like those women are equal to murderers, that kind of like that's a purist argument. So I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, ribs. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, ribs. By the way, right now, I don't know if they're there. They're finishing up. Summer and friends are at a funeral for this guy Eric who passed away. So officially sending out my love and support to everybody who's showing up for Eric. I didn't know him, but she always spoke very highly of him. He was a decent dude, and he went into the hospital a couple of months ago for like some intestinal distress stuff, ended up getting multiple infections and dying. And all issues I have with the cleanliness of hospitals aside, he didn't deserve to go out that way, and it was very rough on on his friends and his family, and it's been a tough one. So anyways, much love to them. If they at any point anybody sees this after the fact, some may, so because I know some of them will occasionally watch. So and in that note, recognize that we have a tendency when people pass to focus on the good parts of their lives, because the petty things fall away, and we deal with the seriousness of the fact that this person is now dead, and the legacy that they leave behind should be measured in the good that they did and the good that they allowed others to experience. And and some people view it as hypocritical when you do that, and they like how we view politicians in that same way or what have you. And when there is vacillation in the character of the person, obviously, the Saddams of the world, that doesn't tend to happen, but it does with the McCains of the world. And I think I fall firmly on the side that it should. When someone passes, we should celebrate the good they brought to the world and get about cleaning up the mess. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. A round of fermented drinks for all. Well, there you go. Does kombucha count? Because I don't drink, so that would be the only thing I would do. We'll toast a kombucha to Bob. Thank you so much. And guys, if you get a chance, patreon.com/Hal Sparks. We've got a few new Patreons as of last week, which I really appreciate. And eventually, this laptop that I was using earlier is going to need to be replaced because it's taking a crap. I think this might be a part of what was going on. Anyways, so yes, new Patreon. Yes. Here, I'll put the link in there. But and it's pretty easy. Patreon.com/HalSparks. There you go. If that's what you want to do, awesome. If you can't, I understand. Please feel free to do it via super chat or what have you. Really appreciate that. Any support for the show helps. And of course, like I said, it's really helped with the gear and the setup in Vegas. It made all the difference. We were able to fix most of the problems there. And because of you guys supporting it, literally, it was from the super chat dollars that we had been getting that we were able to buy the Rodecaster that is the audio basis of the radio show now and works like a charm. So much so that I'm looking to get a second one. Oh God, that would be so lovely. Would solve so many mic and audio issues going back and forth to Chicago and the robotic stuff that we deal with them. So really appreciate all the support, you guys. It means a lot. 45 over McCain's grave and another thing. Yeah, right. I keep forgetting on Patreon soon. Thank you, Brad. No worries. Come on, guys, pay a new hip on the Patreon. I'm out of work. That's true. Carl is looking for a job, and he became one of our patrons. Of course, he became a Blue Patch Brigade member. And if you don't know, if you're a Blue Patch Brigade member for a little while, once you join, we'll send you a blue patch when you join. After you've been a member for a couple months, because I think that's how it works. It's like they basically, whenever you join, it's the next cycle that they let me know and whatever. Yes, thank you, Deported Village Idiot. Thank you. Your blue patch is on its way. If you have one of those, you bring it to any of my shows, be it stand up, band, anything else. You can bring a guest for free. So you only, it allows you this kind of. I was able to set up this thing with clubs, where if anybody shows up and has the blue patch and it's the real thing, and I bring one with me so they have it. You can get a guest in for free. So it pays for itself in one show. Super easy. But I figure it's worth it to have you guys in the audience and get to see the new shows and all that kind of stuff. I got a show tonight in Santa Barbara. I'm driving up there this afternoon. Bumpers, for those of you that are going to make the trek. Bumper, my other guitar player in 01's going to be there. Thank you, Jack. Holy smokes. And M. Jinchi, thank you so much. I don't know how to pronounce that moniker name, but gosh, you guys, that's amazing. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. So the Blue Patch Brigade, if you're a regular in there, you'll get one of the patches. I think I might even have one in the bag, so I can show you. I might just have the stealth ones. Oh, so this is the yellow version, but like there's a blue version of this one, and that means you guys get like a free extra ticket to every show if you have one of these. So and then there are other ones that'll be coming out later. These are this is the stealth one. My cousin has one of these on his that he wears on when they do SWAT stuff at work. It's pretty cool. And this is this symbol's called the pull, by the way, and it's let's see if I can like better whatever. It's 4 intersecting arrows that pull against each other, which is the idea that we are in a world where they tell you to do one thing and one thing only, and the reality is, I think what makes a whole person is the contradictory and the sometimes bifurcated aspects of your personality and your desires in life pulling against each other that actually pull you, that make you a whole person. It's those things. And that as you expand each one of them, as you grow, the rest of you grows as well. It's sort of my, a little bit of like my version of, the circle of influence concept, that if you have a circle of influence that you do in life, if you expand that by going beyond your comfort zone in an area, the whole circle expands. It doesn't just turn ovular and push out that way. So thank you so much, Zelda Chick. So the Thumpa can continue and always will. There you go. Little Queers Folk reference for those of you that don't know directly. I appreciate that. And 1111. It's nice. We should all make a wish. which is fantastic. Yeah, 65 likes. There's 172 people in here. Everybody, if you can, just hit the like button below there. That would be really awesome. Yeah, the full screen icon, right? Yeah, but this is and I designed this when so the story behind this symbol is that when I was in school, my acting teacher asked me why I had the need to not just be an actor, why I needed to, keep playing in my band, and why I needed to do stand up as well, and why I wanted to write. And I literally drew this on a piece of paper to explain to her, like spontaneously. I drew this, and I was like, "'Cause that's me." Because if acting is the top arrow and stand up is the other arrow, and this is music and this is writing, the fact that they pull against each other is what expands me into a person. And I try to, I know I'm insane, and I know most people don't live like that, but I do think that, like, if you work in a factory and that's all you do, or you work a job or whatever, and you don't play a musical instrument, or you don't learn a foreign language, or you don't read, or have a hobby, or something that makes you feel as passionate, that you can feel as passionate about, that's equal to um, the work that you do to some degree. If the work itself isn't that thing, isn't, then you're limiting yourself to only being half of yourself. And so I wear this as an emblem of that. So there you go. Anyways, that's the story. So the blue one is obviously our Democrat, political progressive liberal view of the world, or whatever. The yellow and the white are the standard versions or whatever. The stealth one is in relation to other things, and then the red one is, of course, the music one. So if you there's only a couple people I think who qualify to wear the red one at this point, and that's Ginger and Brittany, because they've been to enough shows, so they get a red one the next time I see them. There you go. Free, you say? Free. There you go. Hal, do you do what you love, and that's all that's important? Can you tell? I'm a retired teacher. Yes. But I had let's see, that's me too. Music, art, photography, film. Yeah, you need all the aspects of your self, and they inform each one. You know what I mean? Like, if I wasn't a comedian, if I didn't have this radio show, all my comedy would probably be so centered on politics that it would be disposable. It would be comment of the week, but the comedy that I would make would be irrelevant 2 weeks from now, or a month from now, or a year from now. And I recognize that. And so that's why, part of the radio show is to service that point of value and make sure that you give something in that area, so that when I'm doing stand up, I can speak in more broad terms. Right. And as a musician, or as an actor, and as a, writer, director, those elements, all of them play a part and feed each the one, even the ones that seem to draw attention away from it. It's very hard for my agents to understand, but like, over time, it's worthwhile. It used to be very normal in Hollywood that if you were an artist, you had to be able to dance and sing and do everything. Now it's just like, okay, you're an Instagram star and you got one wacky phrase, go. You're only allowed one thing. Just say get her done, and that's it. We don't want to hear anything else. If we ever see you in public not wearing overalls, you're fired. Thank you, Alvy. Be well. Cody's telling me to go into the recliner so she can fall asleep on my lap. See y'all next week. Well, that's an order. Be well. Thank you, Hal Vickery. I appreciate it. Thank you. Up Tal's vibes became after that. Yes. You're trying to be Frank Sinatra. No, I don't. I mean, I think, Gene Kelly, that'd be my example. Wear my blue patches and medallion. That's a great idea. As a matter of fact, Amos, I ought to create a little holder for it or something like that would do that. That's a good idea, just for some people. Bill Maher has become a hack, in my humble opinion. Dude, anybody who cranks out a show every week while they're doing that is going to fall into ruts. It happens, unless there's, one of the things that keeps me from falling into a rut on this show, is interacting directly with you guys instead of having guests that I pick and, that are narrowly put together every week, but also just the sheer fact that having to do this myself and doing it on a personal level is what keeps it fresh for me. Go run up the side of that wall and dance, right? You sound like Johnny Carson to me. Yeah. Oh, all right. Are you taking the 1 freeway or the 101 to Santa Barbara? Well, the 101 it turns into the one part way up. So I'll do the 101 first and then crisscross over. Yeah. If I was riding my motorcycle, I'd take the one the whole way. But Bumper and I are going up together. So he's from Santa Barbara and he wants to go to the show. So, do we have let's see, patrons? Something came up. I don't understand. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Copy. All right. So yeah, that part of it, in terms of incorporating all of yourself. Thank you, World Peas. It's a great goal. We should all be for World Peas, I think. That's why when we met you, we found your stand-up refreshing and not just a rehash of your radio show, which is basically what Mar does. Well, that's exactly it, Act. If it and that drives me crazy. Like, don't just and the worst. Oh boy. I'm not going to name names, but if you're on a show and you have writers and you're doing your stand-up show and you either on purpose or on purpose by accident or on purpose without telling anybody are throwing in jokes that your writers wrote on the monologue for that week or the week before or whatever that aren't yours. You're not doing stand-up. I'm just saying. I got an issue with that. First of all, look, okay, real quick, this is me, I recognize I have rules about stuff other people don't have. Okay. I recognize that. I recognize that other people don't give a shit. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to them if it's a, cause I think if you have a guitar on stage, you're not doing stand-up. You're doing a comedy bit. You're doing an act, a sketch, something, but it's not quite stand-up. For me, stand-up, one human being and a microphone. If it's a comedy duo, fine, but it's not stand-up. It's more like vaudeville. It's from the, like Sklar Brothers, love them. They're not doing stand-up. It's two of them. It's a sketch show. It's a two-person live sketch show. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like being a hypnotist on stage or like a comedy hypnotist or a magic act. Cool. Not saying it's bad, absolutely, on par, but it's not. It's like songs aren't poetry. You know what I mean? Like a poem is a poem because it has no words, no music to it. Music is music whether it has words or not. A poem is a poem, even after you've set it to music. Like but there's a difference between a poet and a songwriter, and it matters, right? Same thing is true of stand-up. Stand-up is one person microphone. That's the art form. That's it. Comedy hypnotist. Mark Savard is a comedy hypnotist. Love the dude. He's one of my best friends. He's Summer has worked for him for years. I studied comedy hypnotism. I took his class. Consider yourself warned. Sleep. I want everybody's keyboard. Everybody's keys should just have done like, this would be so funny if everybody's thing just like immediately did that because their heads hit their keyboards. So anyways, I have no problem with every possible version of comedy appearing on stage. Just don't call it stand-up if it's not, right? Carrot Top is a prop comic. Totally cool. That's what it's called. It's not stand-up. He does a section of his show that's basically stand-up where he's not doing any of that stuff in between, but he's not a stand-up. He's a prop comic. And there was a difference between, this is one of the areas where nobody gives a shit but me and comedy historians. But there's a difference between a comedian and a comic, okay? The idea for a long time, the easiest way to make people understand it was a comic says funny things. A comedian says things funny. The idea is that A comic is telling jokes. Oh, Jeremy, simmer down. Remove, block, go away. It's impolite. You like you can believe in Jesus here. You don't sell Jesus here. I don't have any proof that you actually believe what you're saying, so you don't get to just fill up the chat that way. Okay, so comic and comedian. Comic says funny things. Comedian says things funny. Stephen Wright, Rodney Dangerfield, Mitch Hedberg, comics. They're comics. It's an art form. It's amazing. It requires a very specific talent, but it's a written, a very written aspect of the art form. It is jokes. These are specifically jokes, right? They are turns of phrase that need not be true, right? Hal Dimitri Martin, he's great. Dimitri Martin, I would say, is a comic. Agreed. He occasionally has comedic observations, but for the most part, he's writing absurdist single lines, right? So, right. There you go, Benny Loco. That's a great example of a comic joke. Blonde on one side of the river says to the blonde on the other side of the river, how do I get to the other side? And the other blonde answers back, you are on the other side. Right. Exactly. So, all right. So on one hand, that's what a comic does. And a lot of times comics, because of that, yes, Foxworthy qualifies as well. Although, you might know you're a redneck if. A great example of that is him being a comic. Now, he vacillates between comedic stuff and that, but there are people who are very definitively, comedians can write jokes, comics only do jokes, if that makes sense. Jeff Dunham is a puppeteer, not a stand-up. That's a puppet show. It's fine, but it's a puppet show. It's fine. It's a little racist. It's a lot racist. It's annoying, but it's fine. Whatever. Do what you're gonna do. But here's the thing. My rule: if you're gonna go up and say a bunch of racist shit, at least have the guts to say it yourself. Don't go, what is he doing? I just think that. Can you believe this guy? Right? Really? Okay. So, anyways, point being, comic, comedian. Comedians are more do fuller stories, are telling things. There are jokes within it, but the idea is that more conceptual. Comics write jokes more often than not. In the past, comics were the ones that bought material because you have it's a machine gun style. You joke after joke after joke, and after a while, just writing that a volume of stuff, much like a monologue on the Tonight Show or the Late Late Show or what have you. Those are, that's a comic delivery, not a comedian delivery. You are joke after joke, set up joke, right? Set up punchline. So you end up buying a lot of those, and that's fine. But don't call yourself a comedian if you're buying shit. If you're buying your stuff, you're not a comedian. You're a comic, and that's okay. But that's what it is. Okay? And as a comedian who does not buy material, who does not borrow material, who does not use other people's material ever. I've had like 2 times in my life where there was like overlap about a concept where, and if you have the same cultural references as somebody else, it is very common that you'll run up where you kind of both found your way to the same joke. I will jettison that joke in a fucking heartbeat and never go anywhere near it again rather than have an overlap in there. And I've had people steal my stuff left and right. But because I'm a comedian, I know I'll have more stuff. I'm not just writing jokes, right? So anyways, it's just a thing that I have about that. And back to the kind of Mar and others thing where when you have a regular show that is an overlap of your actual comedy, whether you mean to or not, you are going to absorb and regurgitate some jokes that are not yours. I've seen it happen all the time. Robin Williams used to write Rick Overton a joke or like a check for jokes he told during specials that he had forgotten he had heard from Rick. because he was like, "Oh shit, that's Rick's joke," and I just said it because I don't have a filter, and it was okay. He ended up buying stuff after the fact, like, "Oh, I didn't realize that I rented. I didn't realize I had rented your rake without asking." Right? That's a special case. Robin was extraordinary on so many fronts that it was just weird. Yeah, Rick Overton is wonderful. So funny. Oh my god. His letters from the front bit from the Civil War. Oh, so I love that bit. Like I can't tell you like I love that bit. So I just read that comics are writing let's see. I just read that comics are writing for some celebrities on Twitter and Instagram. Oh, of course they are. Especially ones who, like cuz they do it for the Tonight Show all the time. There's dudes on these lists and they just like you just send in jokes and they, if they use it, they buy it, that kind of thing. Well, this again, I don't trust that at all. Like I got asked to do that a couple of times back in the day before I broke, and everybody's like, "Yeah, you just get on this list and you send in your jokes, and then if they use them, they pay." And I'm like, "Yeah, I believe that." And then my jokes are theirs forever. Forget it. Seth Meyers better. I like Seth Meyers better than Colbert, but Colbert's show is better. Well, they both have two different talents. I think, Seth is a better is better on a presentational level, and Colbert is a much more easily ingratiated human. He's just better with people. And it may be because he's always been, because of Second City and stuff, he's always been part of an ensemble most of his life. And he came up through a sketch comedy background, whereas Seth came up as a head writer and, was like writing in teams and kind of became a head writer. And so you become a more authority point. Yeah. I mean, they're both good, but you can see why their skills are different. Sometimes Colbert makes a joke and Seth Meyers tells almost the same joke. Their writers just think alike. Yeah, exactly. Robin was a stand-up guy in both contexts. It's true. You you got a favorite female comedian, Hal? I'm thinking I'm liking Whitney Cummings. I mean, I like Deanna Smith. I don't know if you guys hold on. I'll see if I can find a link for Deanna Smith. I met Deanne at here, I'll put it in. I met Deanne at years ago at where was it? At Edinburgh was the first time I met her. She doesn't tour a lot in the States, but I really like, she's a good soul, good person, funny. She's one of those people where man, this is a comedian thing too when you're hanging around, but I find her funnier in person than on stage because some people, do their, their show that way, but there you go. Let's see. I mean, I like Whitney. I can just, no pun intended, I can see her stuff coming a mile away. It's just, I've loved Janine Garofalo forever. I mean, I find that I like my inspirations as far as, funny women comes in the form of female actresses a lot of times just because of a style thing. Sometimes not because they don't exist as stand-ups, but because I love Elaine Boozler and Kathy Ladman, and I loved Ellen's stand-up back in the day. Like that they actually had that one of those friggin' robots stole Ellen's joke from 1986. I was amazed. They had this robot on, there's this old joke Ellen told, which I love, which was like, my grandmother started running 5 miles a day when she was 80 years old. It's amazing. She's 86 now, and we don't know where the hell she is. Like, I loved that joke when I was in high school. Like I was like, that's awesome. You know, so yeah, so I mean, been a bunch along the way, but I'm more inspired most of the time by as a comedian by comic actors, both male and female. You know, like I feel like my performances and what I do. I mean, obviously, Carlin and Steve Martin and Richard Pryor all had a huge impact on me, and you can see that in my act. But as a person performing on stage, I think there's a lot of I see a lot of Dom DeLuise and Gene Wilder and Madeline Kahn, um, and Burt Reynolds and stuff like that in there. I agree, Sarah. Paul F. Tompkins is one of my favorite female comedians. If you've ever had a mullet, they're not. If they ever had a mullet, they're not a real comic. Sorry. Wow. Way to be ageist. There was a period where tons of people. I never had a mullet. I always had just long hair. But and I wanted to pop in with my thumbs up, but can't stay. Well, thanks for dropping by, Artemis. Smash that like. Yes, Blazing Saddles. Tig Notaro is wonderful. Sarah Bobert, I'm 45. I'm 49. I'm going to be 50 this year. I'll be 50 in September 25th. Have you seen the new Star Wars trailer? Are you a Star Wars fan? I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know how to feel about it yet. We'll see. I'm super excited about Avengers Endgame, though. Holy smokes. Like, it's almost an illness. 49, we're only like 6 months apart. Nice. Am I, well, that makes sense because you and I both obviously are Bloom County fans, and we'd have to be in the same age range for that. Puppet is a racist proxy. Interesting. Can't argue. Perfect way to say all kinds of hack, low common denominator stuff and get away with it. Thank you, MJ. MJ in China. I see. In Chi-Town. Are you in Chicago? Is that what we're doing? Thank you, MJ. Look at that. Well, I appreciate that so much. Lucille Ball was probably the best comic actress, but in person, she had a rep of not being particularly funny. Well, a lot of times you save it up or she's absorbing. It's not that she's not being funny in public, it's that she's looking at life and participating in life so something informs her comedy. Again, be a whole person, right? But thank you, MJ. 5 months, 12 days and counting. Till Rise of Skywalker. I see. I reached 30 last month. Look at that. I was 50 16 years ago. You're Jack, you braggart. We're the two 30-year-olds. Oh, yeah, there you go. Doug Benson. It's funny because I haven't seen Doug do stand-up in forever because he does like Doug watches movies. I did one of those with him in Vegas. In San Francisco. That's where we did it. Hunter S. Thompson. What a hack, right? Trailer for the new Star Wars game Jedi Fallen Order just released like 40 minutes ago. That interests me. Although I will say, does anybody else have a problem with playing as a stormtrooper or Darth Vader or Kylo Ren? Think it's healthy? A game that lets you just pick sides and play like it doesn't matter? Like, that's weird. Like, I literally, I started playing Battlefield for a while because Call of Duty did that thing where you could play as a Nazi. Well, the Battlefield, Dalton, that's great. I'm very excited for that, Dalton. But the Battlefield one, you could play as, anybody, and it didn't matter in a big battle. And like, that's messed up. Like, no, I'm not gonna buy my kid a game where he can play as a Nazi. Like, I don't know, well, uniforms look cool. Forget it. My cousin and I had this big talk about it at Christmas. I think it was like last year or whatever, year before last. Like, no. It's not a problem if you're Stephen Miller. Right. Well, I don't want to, last video game I played was Frogger. Oh, that's pretty good. Recently. But speaking of Darth Vader, there's a Darth Vader VR game coming out. Yeah. I'm a big fan of VR. I don't think I think the size of the viewing thing is 100% the reason it's not taking off. The minute because it's too heavy, you can't move your head fast enough for a comfort point without the lag. And it's the same lag you get from slow video back in the day when you're playing like, Doom or something, and you can't move your screen as fast as the threats are coming. And so you're like, I hate this game, and you stop playing it. I feel like VR would give me really bad headaches. Yeah, it does. A lot of stormtrooper kill innocent creatures and worship a demigod. Yeah, they're villains. Klondike. Last game I played was the latest Tomb Raider. Loved it. Oh, that's cool. I have not played that one yet. I've been playing the new Call of Duty that has its kind of there's multiplayer mode, and then there's basically their ripoff of what's it, like the stupid game where you drop in Fortnite. Their Fortnite ripoff, which is fun. It's a lot of running around, abstract, just teams. Which again, here's the thing, if Call of Duty created a situation where they had a villain group, but the villain group was a sympathetic villain group and you were trying to tell an alternate story, that's one thing. Because you could pick Team A and Team B and believe you're right and understand that point of view. You could make that kind of morally ambiguous argument. But the Nazis were pretty direct. You're not even playing, like, I would even understand if you were playing as a German who at one point could switch sides and, and decide, oh my God, the Nazis are going to kill everybody, my family as well. And it's only a matter of time. Blah, blah, blah. Like if you made that kind of argument, but they don't, it's just like, you could be a Nazi. Well, that's not the same thing as a German soldier. And just, like overlaying it as if it doesn't matter is the most messed up part. I don't get Fortnite. The graphics are so primitive. That's kind of the appeal, Sarah. And I think the appeal, the reason it works is because it doesn't bog your system down, because it doesn't require that much. Audio surf, it lets you play your own music. That's cool. If I get headaches playing older games on a big screen, I can't imagine strapping on a game in my face. Yeah, it's a bit rough. Like I have the PS4 VR thing. I've had that for a couple of years now, and I remember playing Farpoint at one point, and I'd been playing for a couple of hours, and it was getting surreal, and I took the whole thing off, and I was dizzy for a little bit because my eyes got used to the refresh rate in the screen, and I was like, I need to go lay down. I'm getting nauseous. Captain America is my favorite one. Agreed. Wolfenstein. You know what? Castle Wolfenstein, the original, was so much better than the modern ones, and they didn't bring with it the most important, cool thing about the Wolfenstein thing, which was you could put on one of the uniforms, the SS uniforms, and pretend and sneak around. And that was like the most nerve-wracking part of it, is that you could go past regular like German soldiers wearing that uniform and they wouldn't bother you. But if another SS soldier saw you, he would recognize you were faking, and it was tense as hell. It was like this. I think that's where the scene in the basement came from in Inglourious Bastards, was from Tarantino playing the original 8-bit Castle Wolfenstein back in the day. It was nerve-wracking. Me and my buddy used to love GoldenEye. Yeah, right. Princess Leia dead in the movie. Yeah, they have Carrie Fisher in the trailer, like CG Carrie Fisher. Watch the season of, let's see. Hate to be a downer, but Call of Duty and some other first-person shooter games are rife with actual neo-Nazis trying to recruit people. Yeah, well, yeah, but that's like saying the internet is. I'm not going to stay off the internet. Who cares? Like, you literally, like, if you have a child and they play online games, turn off other people's microphones unless you know who they are, because they will say all kinds of, like, you will hear a good portion of minorities using anti-minority language. You will hear a prevalence of anti-gay or anti-woman or anti-everybody stuff. Or just swear words, or just like if the people you were playing with were the kind of people you would invite into your home, they'd be there already. The original Mortal Kombat when Scorpion said, "Get over here." Yeah, it's very sexy. Who wants to go kill stuff in a game, programming in the shape of a game? Kill. Yeah, it's not quite the same thing. It's more like tag, but it depends on how you feel about it. I play them all the time. I like them. I'm not prone to violence. I still have I played violent video games my entire life. I've listened to music that everybody says makes you violent. Doesn't. My grandma is 96 and no one can tell. Fully active, no ultra even. Most thinks she's in her 60s, drives daily, active in community and church, sharp as a tack, just sleeps longer. Yeah, well, that's what they find. Can't stop lying is that a lot of these people who, the woman who was just like, I think she's 113 is now the oldest woman in the world. Um, she apparently sleeps like 3 days, gets up, has some yogurt, and then goes back to sleep. Yeah. Jiraman Kimura, she's Japanese, born in 1897. That was the oldest man. Okay. Let's see. Okay, this is the oldest person living today. They just had her. Yeah, Japanese woman. She's 116. Kane Tanaka wakes up at 6 o'clock every day. Listen to this lady. She's lovely. Get out of here, Blue Shield. Wakes up at 6 a.m. every day. Likes to study math and other subjects for fun. Competes fiercely in a board game called Othello. It's proven to be a pretty good combination for the 116-year-old from Fukuoka, Japan. Oldest living person. It was so sweet. They handed her a trophy, and she cried, and she had cake. Oldest of 7 children. She was born premature in 1903. Let's see. She married Hideo Tanaka at 19 before they had ever met, following a Japanese norm at the time. They had 4 children and adopted a 5th child. He operated a family business. He was in the service in 1937. When did he pass? Let's see. Operated a family business, produced sticky rice and udon noodles. Kane took a greater role in the family business after Hideo began military service in 1937. The oldest son served in World War II and was held captive by the Soviet Union before returning to Japan. Let's see. She's had several operations, including cataracts and colorectal cancer. Her eating cake is just an act of defiance in and of itself. To become the oldest person ever recorded, you need to live another 6 years to surpass Jean-Louise Calment of France, who's been the oldest person. For the past 22 years, she lived to be 122 and 164 days. Hey, there were good people. What? Okay. 80 likes, 148 watching. Thank you, Sixes. Let everybody know. Smash that like, you guys. Come on. I'll never become the next PewDiePie if people won't smash that like. Smash it. I'll eventually get this all down. GoldenEye was Ian Fleming's house in Jamaica. Ian Fleming wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I think it was there was more culturally pivotal scenes in that movie and imagery from that book and movie than people sub. Thank you for subbing. Look at that. Who is subbed? Yes, everybody subscribe, please do. So I'm just kidding. Love Battlefield. Used to play that regularly. Perfect Dark was not as cool as GoldenEye. Yeah. Get out up to 100. That's right. We want 100 people. I appreciate that, Sarah. Can somebody please tell me why Donald Trump is still president? Because he was voted in, because our remedies for removal are slow for a reason, and because we let it happen. That's why. Thank you, Bob and Gigi. Adam, we have no president. We are free falling. Yeah, there's an argument for that. So, anyways, see, to copy a Stephen Wright joke, I was born cesarean. It doesn't bother me now, and I always leave a house, but going out the window, yes. Putin made it happen. Absolutely had a huge factor in it. And anybody who says different is probably got a pee-pee tape in their background. That happens. He's undoing our government. Well, I would argue that this is a stress test. This goes to, hey, and I recommend you check out my video that I just posted on goal setting, on sticky goals. That and that's true. Benny Loco is not as good as free balling. But that there are no setbacks, there are only stress tests, and that's going to be true of this country as well. So if you want to write in code, get an Enigma machine. Well, I wonder if we'll live to be 150 or 200 due to upgrades we will be able to get soon. I would say yes. Yeah. Why did Danko Dank get deleted? Why was that? Was there something I missed? Because he was just writing PewDiePie a bunch of times? Right. Are you ready to see the Joker movie, Hal? I assume you've seen the trailer. I have. I'm not that excited about it. I've always been more of a Marvel fan, and DC has basically just sold off all of their heroes and just gone total villain at this point. Between the Joker and Suicide Squad, like, they don't know how to make a hero to save their life right now, no pun intended. There were several programs in the UK for Ian Fleming's 100th. Downey Cooper played Fleming in a 4-episode Fleming, the man who would be Bond. Yeah. He was being obnoxious. I see. Gotcha. Okay. Like Sticky Goals vid 2. Thank you, Bob and Gigi. I appreciate that. I'm going to do more of those. The Better and Better series is growing. As a part of the Project 50 thing, I realize I'm doing a lot of stuff about exercise and whatnot. But I also, there's other aspects of the stuff that I've been doing that I can't address as directly as just showing, progress pictures of working out and whatnot that are as equally important to the Project 50 concept. So are unintentional spit takes funny? Bet your ass there. Yes, they are. The first 200-year-old human was already been born, according to Swedish scientists. Yes. 250, actually. Danko Dank was perverse rating. Well, that's just rude. Was Danko Dank named after Danko Jones? If so, they can be forgiven. In my opinion, you can't have a Joker without a Batman. I agree. I think, and the Joker has become, and you can quote me on this, the Colonel Sanders of supervillains, because they are just spending all their time getting, the next Joker in line, and don't give a crap about the root point of it. Like, what you don't get me started on my problems with the Batman movies in and of themselves. And again, Heath Ledger's Joker was so good, like, and it's not like Christian Bale can't deliver a performance. So, whatever. Anyways, graphics are not as important as gameplay. An excellent game actually doesn't need great graphics. That is absolutely true. Can't stop lying. Because go play an upright video game for a couple of minutes that you're actually invested in. It's all about investment. Colonel Sanders and the Joker. Yeah, they change Colonel Sanders every 10 minutes in the commercials. They change him so often it's meaningless now. The same thing is true of the Joker. Also, the Joker never threw a birthday party for you. Are you sure? I can't believe Ben Affleck was Batman. He was the best part of Batman versus Superman. That's not saying a lot. It's kind of crap, but yeah, I liked Michael Keaton in the first Batman. I did too. It was very charming. Bad casting, but I loved him. I love Michael Keaton and everything. I love Michael Keaton. He's just fantastic. I mean, go watch Night Shift and Beetlejuice. Jesus Christ, he's so good. Russians hacked voter databases in all 50 states. This is true. Mike Myers, spot on. Apparently, the whole throw me a bone here, guys. He was doing Lorne Michaels. Was not a fan of that whole movie. Of which whole movie? Mark Hamill is pretty solid as the animated Joker. Absolutely. Mark Hamill is a great voice as a Joker. Michael Keaton in Spotlight's fantastic. Yep. Birdman's terrific. I own that. Yeah, Batman versus Superman was stupid across the board, but the only up parts were the Batman stuff. There was a few good Batman scenes, and that was all Ben Affleck. I had no problem with him in that. Jesse Eisenberg is oh God, that was so awful. Oh God, it was awful. Dalton. I understand. And I just have to believe he was directed poorly because I don't it's not like he's a terrible actor. Can we just on a lighter note, can we just celebrate Jeff Goldblum in Thor Ragnarok for a minute? Because oh my God, he's so good. Yeah, if you win, you can go back to Berg, ass place, whatever, Asgard. But oh my God, it's so good. No, don't hand me the killing stick. That's not a. She's just talking back. That's not a killable offense. What am I always? What am I always saying about her? That she is the worst? No, were you just waiting to say that? Drunk? Don't. She's right. So good. Oh, Carl, you must. Unfortunately, the Valkyrie character, I got issues with it, but Goldblum and the I forget what the Rock character in it. It's gonna be Korg, yeah, right, because he was named after the keyboard. Korg from Thor Ragnarok. It's this guy Taika Waititi. He's a total New Zealander voice. Hello, new Doug. Get out of here, ghost, creepy ghost. So good. Zack Snyder wanted the DCU to be dark and serious. I don't think Zack ruined the DCU. I think it was mainly Warner Brothers and Zack, but mainly Warner Brothers. Well, here's the problem. And Warner Brothers had the same problem Sony had. And nobody recognized until Sam Raimi fixed Spider-Man, hello, that people want to see the costumes. I don't need to see the fucking X-Men in all black costumes. You wear the outfits. That's the part. That's what I'm there to see. I don't need to see a darker, modern 90s like the Punisher. Christ almighty. The Punisher did not fail because of the acting. It did not fail because of it was too violent or not violent enough. The Punisher series was not good because it was not the Punisher. Wasn't wearing the uniform. You can't just spray the logo on a bulletproof vest and call it a day. Al, who is the person standing behind you in the corner? Dun, dun, dun. There's nobody standing behind me in the corner. I mean, that lady? That's Ray's band Jetstar's logo. Wear the uniform. You guys enjoy your Marvel. I'm still boycotting. Why are you boycotting? Al, let's all just be glad they hired James Gunn back for a game. Yes, for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yes, they needed it. Yes. Who's inside those boxes in the corner? Mostly that's all Ray's gear. So, yellow spandex. Absolutely. Put on the Wolverine outfit. If you can't film it and make the Wolverine outfit look cool, you shouldn't be directing a Wolverine movie. Christ. Oh, those are sound baffles. Things We Do in the Dark was Tika's movie before Ragnarok. Now Tika Waititi is making a werewolf-themed version in the same vein as Vampire Comic. That's great. Because of Spider-Man 3, right? Oh. Which Spider-Man 3? Criminy. And by the way, those were the Sony movies too, EO, not the Marvel Disney ones. So don't boycott the Marvel Disney ones because they screwed up because either Sony or Fox were messing around with the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man. So Hollyweird is failing. I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I view especially the Disney Marvel stuff as a huge success, considering Iron Man was kind of a relatively irrelevant character, and now he became pivotal. And then they managed to take Captain America and make him a wonderful character worth investing in emotionally. That's not, that's no easy feat. And I was on, I wasn't a fan. I didn't like the Captain America, the first Avenger movie myself when I first saw it, and now I love it. It's one of my favorites, and I've watched it again and again and again. I was not ready to appreciate it when it came out because it was a period film and it was set the way it was. But like the more I watch it, like I've caught myself tearing up at the end of it. So thoughts on Artie Lang picking up garbage as part of his rehab? I like Artie's a mess. Artie is a poster child for don't do drugs, and certainly don't overdo drugs. Holy smokes! And I don't know. I mean, I think people will find their path different ways. So, service is a great way to get in touch with yourself and what matters. So, volunteering, I recommend that to everybody. I was talking to somebody yesterday about the fact that like I volunteer at the Midnight Mission and also at Project Angel Food, and it's both the act of feeding people, but it's two totally different circumstances. And all mental illness aside, with people who don't, who live in downtown on the street, versus people who are, who get fed at the Midnight Mission. Versus people from Project Interview many whom are fighting a terminal illness, or are in treatment for a terminal illness and are hoping to beat it, but are in really rough shape. It's a different experience emotionally based on who you're feeding, who you're helping in that moment. And I mean, there's, you can make a moral distinction yourself about whether one's more important than the other and whether one's more of a priority than the other. And it would be different for a lot of people, but the act of doing it and your awareness of that is very important, So yeah, why not? I love Captain America since the first time I saw it. That's cool. His nose is gone literally. Yeah, that's rough. Just watch the Runner Jackman is getting old. Well, people age. That's okay. As good as the first Avenger is, you have to hand it to Winter Soldier for its 3 days of the Condor themed storyline. Yeah, no, those are great movies, no question. But as as origin stories go, pretty perfect. That's why he wanted to kill off Wolverine. Yeah, you don't get to do that. That's the other thing. Stop killing off these characters that are going to continue to exist in the comic book. You get recast. You don't get to kill a character that's existed for 50 years. That's the problem they keep trying to do with Superman. Stop trying to kill off Superman, assholes. Just come up with a good villain in a story. I want to see Superman have an adventure where he is tested and wins. Duh. For fuck's sake. Thoughts on Kevin Brennan? He got into it with Jim Norton. I don't know that I have any thoughts on that. I mean, I like those. I mean, I don't operate in those circles, so I don't really know those guys. I've run into them at shows and that kind of stuff, but my circle is so different. How can you play the Kids in the Hall theme song? Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. How come there's a new Bond all the time? Well, that's exactly it. You don't kill off Bond. They recast him. Try Superman versus the Elite if you haven't seen it already. It's one of the best Superman stories ever. Yeah, that's one of the cartoons, right, Mark? Well, the comics kill off the heroes, then resurrect them. This is true, but it's usually because they're trying to rebrand the character as well. It's the same mistake. Don't do it. Because, again, don't satisfy, especially if something is aimed at an age group, don't try to satisfy people as they age out of it. Try to entice new readers into when they age through that period. It's about a boy like Superman. Instead of growing up to be a superhero, he becomes a maniac. It looks awesome. Well, isn't that what what was it? Chronicles? Wasn't that what Chronicle was? Chronicles about 3 kids who discover a meteor kind of thing that gives them superpowers, and one of them becomes a monster. Yeah. Shadowy Men on a Shadow Planet. Yeah. At least Watchmen touched on your idea, Hal. How so? Which idea? I've said like 20 in the last little bit. I don't know quite I wouldn't mind seeing Superman run a daycare. Joker looks good. I don't know. It looks like what was that movie that Joaquin Phoenix just did? He just did You Were Never There? You know that movie? It's basically the Joker movie without makeup. Who do you think Hal should play the next Batman? I don't know. I kind of got the lips for it, I think. I love the Dark Knight series, and I love the aged Batman. I would love to see an old Batman. How could be the next Bond? That'd be fun. Although I'm not a Brit, so How was your lamb? Skewered. One sympathizes. I don't know if I guess I suppose I could qualify on some front to be. That's the other thing. Like, you can be a Brit and come over here and screw up a Southern accent all you want. You can just do whatever show they put down there, do whatever, make up your accent as you go along, just throw it together and forget about it, just like move to Georgia, get your own show, do your thing, right? And nobody gives a crap, but if I go over to England, I start talking like, effectively their version of a Southerner, or if I try, a bit of a posh accent and try to, they'll never let me do it. They just won't. Batman should be black. How so? Explain yourself. There's a fan-made Batman versus Terminator short animated cartoon on YouTube. Yeah. Feel like I'm watching Spinal Tap. Yeah, exactly. I think you missed my Watchmen answer. I very well may have. Yeah. I'll scroll back. Superheroes have retired in the Watchmen, and people stepped in to take their costumes. Yeah, well, they became a caricature of them after a while. I think that's really the PS. Batman shouldn't be black. I just want my black ass to play him. Okay, there you go. Yes, I look. Yeah, Sans. I look forward to playing the White Panther one day. Have you met Steve Miller, Hal Sparks? From the Steve Miller Band, or Stephen Miller from the White House? 'Cause that's a huge difference. I should be the Pink Panther. I think that's a great idea. The Joker, the Smoker, and the Midnight Toker. That's right. Yes, the band. I have not met the whole Steve Miller Band. No, I have not. But I don't know that I've met. I don't think I've met him in person. No. Tron 3. Anyone? Stephen Miller is just a few letters away from Stephanie Miller. That's true. It's weird. Keaton's so good. He was even been a DC hero as Batman and a Marvel villain and Spider-Man as the Vulture. Also, Jeff Goldblum. Love that dude, period. Totally. If you ever get a chance and you're in Los Angeles and you get to see Jeff Goldblum in the Judith, what is it? The Judith Spitzer Orchestra. I always screw up the last name. He plays jazz at the Rockwell. Yeah, it's Jeff Goldblum and the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra. Yeah. Little jazz. And he's good at it. Fantastic. He's so great, and he does this. He does this show, and at the I went and saw it with Summer, and I went and saw him, and he's walking around in the middle of the thing. He glides through the audience with his microphone. He's just like, Jeff Goldblum trivia. Who did okay? Did I say that? Did I say this, or did someone else say this? And he'll say lines of dialogue or have written lines of dialogue, and he'll have people say them. It's so funny. And he's gliding around. I'm sitting there. My girlfriend's right here. We're watching the show. He's going through the audience. We're just watching him, and he stops right next to me, and I'm looking right at him. He's like right here, and Jeff goes like this. He's standing. He's really tall. He leans over and he goes, "Oh, you're wonderful." That's all he said. That's all he had to say. It was, you're wonderful. Like, well, thank you. I agree. Oh, thanks, Articles in. Appreciate it. Don't forget to smash the likes and just like and subscribe. I'll remember to do all this shit eventually. I know. Hal, I'm confused as to why you said my full first name. That's hilarious. I don't know. Just feel like it sometimes. Because you're wonderful. I'll tell you what the check out Threshold on YouTube. It's great. Early Goldblum. You know my personal favorite Jeff Goldblum movie is Mr. Frost. Anybody? Yeah, Jurassic Park. I did a flyby. That's chaos theory, and no one would think I would be in the car talking to myself, but now nobody could have predicted that he would leap from a moving car, and now I'm in here talking to myself. It's right. The Fly is amazing. Like, do you think all this Illuminati thing is for real? No. I think there are rich families and rich groups that are always jockeying for their own control of certain industries and certain and monetary systems and protecting themselves. But I also think they're at odds half the time. And yeah, but this idea that there's an Illuminati, it's an oversimplified supervillain bullshit way of looking at the world. Camden should definitely be one of the kids in Jurassic Park. Yeah. Great Tim. Yeah. Great Tim, the human piece of toast. They wouldn't let me in. That's true. Hal, have you ever played a woman? No, I did drag on Queer as Folk. That's closest. I have not played a female character. Have I? Did I do a play? I have to take that back. I may have. No. Did I end up doing the actual show that way? I have to think back. Man, it's been a while. Shakespeare in the 80s, I might have. But, didn't we all? Buckaroo Banzai. Yeah. Well, that's my dream role. That's what I would love to, recreate. I think it'd be a perfect series. I'm just saying. He's fantastic in Buckaroo Banzai, though. Brought my spurs. Barely had time to pack. Fellas call me New Jersey. Hey, where are your spurs? Was he making fun of me? I have not seen Shazam yet. We have not seen Shazam yet. Actually, one of the kids in Brian May is Brian May in Bohemian Rhapsody. Huh. The boy in is that how old we all are? The boy from Jurassic Park is Brian May in Bohemian Rhapsody. Can't have everything. Where would you put it? Stephen Rightline. That's right. And so are you. Did anybody see the report where Steve Bannon said he's going to challenge the Pope on cleaning up the pedophiles in the church? Yes. They're doing a what's his name? Richard Engel is doing a special report about that. And by the way, if he manages to do it and that's how he's going to rehab his life on the planet, knock yourself out, dude. I don't see it happening. I think he's really just attacking him because the church has, become too liberal in his mind and is too supportive of gay rights and is too open to other faiths. And I think that's a pushback against that. I don't think he really gives a crap about pedophilia at all. If he did, he wouldn't have supported Donald Trump and the Jeffrey Epstein, Lolita Express crowd. Bannon needs to attack alcoholism. I think he did. That's the problem. It's very dangerous that I'll start talking like Jeff Goldblum and not be able to stop. Big sleep. I still say Mr. Frost, but it's there's such a great opening. This, he plays a serial killer who may or may not be the devil, depending on whether you believe it or not. That's the cool part. It's a little bit weird and kind of low budget. He went to England and made a bunch of movies because nobody would have him over here for a good long while. It was a very smart move. He made The Girl to Watch in The Very Big Fish, I think, where he The Girl, the Gold Watch and Everything. Is a 1990 American made for television science fiction comedy film based on no, that wasn't it. What was his movie? Now it's gonna drive me crazy. Now I gotta go look up what he did in the 90s. There it is. Okay. Yeah. So he went and did I love The Tall Guy. It's amazing in The Tall Guy. If you recall that, Mr. Frost, fantastic. The Favor the Watch in The Very Big Fish. That's what it was. Plays the pianist in it. And Vibes. If you have not seen Vibes, fix that. It's hard to find. He's amazing in Vibes. I love that movie. He and Cyndi Lauper is so friggin' funny in that. She's so good. Bannon beat his wife and daughter and he's going to lecture someone on abuse. Yeah, apparently. It's like a Hypocrite Express with that dude. Engel with Bannon at 9 p.m. Sunday on MSNBC. Yeah, I kind of don't give a crap. Like, there's just too much stuff on television worthwhile for me to waste any time watching anyone interview Steve Bannon. Who cares? As a matter of fact, the chances of him having, this is talk about a platforming thing. Should he be allowed to be interviewed on? Absolutely. I'm not going to watch though because this is about ratings. 10-speed and brown shoe. Yep. Hi, big Russian what? Hi, bro, from the Lab Rats. Well, hello. Yeah, Cyndi Lauper is amazing in that. Catholics, by the way, very nature, are conservative ban and selling a hoax. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a mix. Used to be, certainly. Yeah, Goldblum was good in Fly, locked in his bedroom and gets a knock on the door and just leave me alone. I'm eating a plate of dog shit. I'm still watching Dark Shadows. Let's see. Yeah. How are you? Did you love your character in Lab Rats? Absolutely. I'm fantastic. I loved yeah. By the way, cameo.com/AlSparks. If you guys want a personalized video, I'm making those things too. Those are a lot of fun. I've got a bunch to do today, which is really fun. Think. Don't forget to click the links. I would put these in the description, and I will. But right now, because of the way I'm streaming, it doesn't allow me to without ending the stream first. So I'm putting them in the chat. So sorry about that. It's bugging up, it's filling stuff up. So Decade Channel 26.6 in Chicago at 11 p.m. on Wednesdays. Cool. A friend and I have been co-watching I Love the 80s episodes on YouTube ladies night. Oh, that's great. Have you ever been in Russia? I have not. I have friends and fans in Russia, though, which I like very much. And some of them have come see me outside of Russia, which is pretty cool. But I've yet to go. And it's something I definitely want to go at some point. Not for a little while, perhaps. We'll see how our election cycle works out. How did you ever hear about VHS tapes going up? How did you hear about VHS tapes going up in price? Where are they even for sale anymore? I mean, once anything is like it's like reel to reel tape became harder to find. Don't go. Okay. Did you hear about 21 Pilots? No. But like, is it something like people they're phasing out VHS? You think? When did that start? Let's see. Listen, they in an American music group. Hope you like it. Oh, I see. Oh, 21 Pilots is an American group. Okay, gotcha. That's when people were selling them at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Yeah, 3/4 inch tape. I have a bunch of stuff on 3/4 inch tape from back in the day when you used to have to cut your own demos as an actor on and you're like, oh God, I gotta call Warner Brothers and get a copy of the show that I have on 3/4 inch tape and request it. Oh, good Lord. Like the effort I went through to cut my like demo tapes as an actor in in 91. Good Lord. There's a series of favorite rock groups. Obviously a huge Kiss fan, have been my whole life. Love Kiss. Huge fan of King's X. If you don't know who they are, I highly recommend looking them up. I will write down their name so you say it, so you look at it properly. King's X. Doink. Then let's see. I mean, there's a bunch of people I love. Like modern stuff, I listen to a lot of Danko Jones. There's let's see. What have we been listening to a bunch lately? My I'm not actually going to here. Hold on. Oh, look at that. Another request. That's fun. Oops, I was robotic apparently at one point, according to Lady B. Whoa. I have 8. Oh, that's great. I just got a new cameo. Was that one of you guys? Holy smokes. I'm not gonna play like. Here's a cheat. I'm not gonna let you guys hear most of it. This is just the beginning of it. Check this out. I'm not playing any more of it. That's just the teaser. And then we have another song that I've been working on. Here's a little that says an 8 count on it. I don't want to put that in there. There it is. I'm just gonna play the first couple of beats of it. Okay, that's all I'm playing. These are 2 new songs that are coming out that I'm doing. That's all you get. But it's the heaviest stuff I've ever done, and it's a good time. You're getting old when your favorite band as a kid released a 25th anniversary remastered edition. I have 30 and 40-year-old ones at this point. Yeah, there's some it's gonna sound really good. We shot a music video. Yeah, I'm just teasing you with it. Yeah. But so it's new stuff's coming. Just saying. It's so hard to hold back and not release some of it, but yeah. This is a formal invitation to join me in one of my live streams. It would be great to see you. Oh, all right. Will do. I think that'd be a great idea, Benny Loco. Thank you very much. Have you any pets? I do. I have my girlfriend and I have 3 cats. We have Chud. And she was the feral cat that lived under my house that I coaxed out. It took me 2 years to turn her into a pet. She's now a house cat. She's lovely. Love Chud. And then we have Maddie and Murphy. Maddie, and they're both rescues. Maddie was from an older Summer fostered. My girlfriend fostered some kittens. We kept one. We're gonna keep one of the others, and he had a spinal deficiency and a bone disorder, and he just withered and died. The poor thing, and so he had to be put down. That was rough. And then so we kept his sister because she was the same color, and then Maddie, the other one. You have a cat name is Jason. Right on. Crazy cat lady. Look out for toxoplasmosis. I'm just warning you. Favorite Beatles song, All My Lovin'. That's my favorite Dave Hill song. There you go. I have to hold on. Let's see. Dave Hill. Yeah, it's a Valley Lodge song. I don't know if you guys have ever seen. No, I was asking Hal if he's ever going to put anything out on CD and DVD. I don't buy digital. Yes, yes, there will be vinyl and digital and video of all of them. So, hold on, I'm going to try and open this up without playing it loud. And there you go. Okay, pause. I don't know if you've ever seen this, guys. And I don't know if you follow Dave Hill or you know him at all. But I recommend checking out Valley Lodge, which is Dave Hill's band. Be well, EO. Anyway, I better head out of here. Y'all have fun this weekend. Yes. So, Hal, it was my dream to talk with you and answer my questions. Absolutely. Glad to do it. Big Russian Kot. Is that what you've got there? K-O-T? Kot? Извините. Спасибо. Товарищ. I have 2 different DVDs and one CD. You said that's right. Cult is cat. Well, of course. There you go. It makes sense. I'm with you. All right. The sound Charlie the cat makes still cracks me up. Oh, thanks, Zelda. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that bit tonight in Santa Barbara. We gotta leave about 3 o'clock. I think we're gonna drive up there. Yeah. Mind if I pound the drums behind you for a couple of hours? No, these are they're synth drums, so it won't make much noise. They're real drums, but they have synth pads on top of them, so they'll just make a clacking sound right now because I'm not running them through anything. It's a little Russian lesson. That's right. It's after 4. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, the time difference. We are mega worldwide after all. I mean, come on. Obviously my time, guys. Um Rashbitsa Bizunmi Chilovik. That's right. Mega worldwide. That's what we do. Yet these are all the ones we have. Yeah. This is us just trying to be friendly. The Russians among us. We don't have to be rude because other people are rude, yes? We can be friendly. We can say "Как ваши дела?" I think I said that right. Yeah. We'll figure it out. Hal, don't go to Russia, go to Ukraine. All right. You know, I met this dude in black guy in China with a Ukrainian girlfriend and a son there that he was trying to get into China so he could bring him to Canada, then to move him to the States because of that, like crazy. Devochka. Salute actually comes from the word salt because Roman soldiers used to be paid in salt, and because salt was so precious, and that's when you say if somebody was worth their salt, it literally meant he was worth what you paid for him, what it took, to have him on his service or whatever. Pretty cool, I'm not planning on going to Chernobyl anytime soon. Don't worry. There's plenty of other places to go, like Moscow and St. Petersburg. And Russians love Hal. Dude, there are many famous people who love you. Well, right on. I studied with Vladimir Vasilyev in Toronto for a little bit, and studied the Russian Sistema, the martial arts up there and stuff, and I own like all of his DVDs and CDs, and Alex Pevchenko, is that his name? His teacher, his class on psychic fighting, where he just punches down at people. And worth your salt is a Romanian phrase too. I know that well. Yep, the Roman Empire collapsed because the army developed high blood pressure. Yeah, and lead poisoning. Carl, you're absolutely right. Like in the study for the documentary I'm doing about lead, holy smokes! Like if you're looking for a reason, they're like the Roman Empire fell because everybody was gay and they let anybody be and they became weak and blah blah blah. Bullshit. They ate off of lead glazed plates and they went bananas. That's it. 100%. Yes, Mr. Frost is on YouTube. And it's worth watching. Because you won't find it anywhere else, I don't think. It's not for sale anywhere. Lead is the cause of, I would say, 30 to 50% of the violent crime on Earth right now, currently. So, and getting rid of it would save, I mean, over time, an immeasurable number of lives. See if the quality is any good in this one. Yeah, so there's the. See if I can. Here's the. Copy the link. Here's the link to Mr. Frost if anybody wants to watch it. There you go. Lead built galena. Lead equals brain damage. It also punctures your prefrontal cortex. Your body receives it and uses it to create your brain, and then it processes it out and leaves the holes in where you're in your brain. And people's impulse control, their violent tendencies increase. It permanently damages people, and not handling it in industrial sites is a big reason why there are violent parts of towns. Period. Cleveland itself, like, all you got to do is look at the areas where there's the most violent crime and where there's the most industrial lead pollution overlap perfectly. Yeah, Swiss cheese brain. That's exactly right, Benny Loco. Given that infrastructure in America gets a grade D or maybe F by the American Society of Civil Engineers, there's plenty of work to be found for government works program. Exactly. People all over the world use diluted urine as fertilizer. That's not weird. Hello, Martin. How are you? Bonjour, ça va bien? Later, UT. Be well. But does it have electrolytes? Yes, because that's what plants crave. Take care, Brad. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it, and hanging out. We will see you guys again very soon. I'm going to be on for about 15 more minutes, and that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're coming and going, please just give it a thumbs up. Ted Nugent is a clearer case of lead poisoning. Well. Do you mean because he eats a lot of what he hunts and he consumes the lead pellet in the process? Butterflies love urine. I want that on a t-shirt. That makes so... What? Our country has such a backlog of infrastructure repairs, such as our national parks, et cetera. There's your jobs program. Agreed. And I think one of those things is, that's what you divert funds away from military spending for, and essentially, because we have had almost like a defense system where maybe if we make the United States physically so crappy, no one will want to invade because it just will suck. Like, that's our defense point. My apartment's so dirty, no one would ever want to break in. Like, that's one of our, but I've got a huge alarm system on the shitter, like, that makes no sense. So, one of the things that would be incredibly worthwhile, would obviously building the country up instead of spending money defending something as it falls apart. I have a video to prove it, how they can't get enough. Oh, good Lord. I can't watch videos like that. It's like, I'll get on a watch list. Vibes, yet another great one. Oh my God, Vibes is so good. Yes. Can't stop lying. I have, I got it as a gift and I have to get a frame for it. I have a Vibes movie poster. Yeah, Vibes the movie isn't, yeah, it's not on. Yeah, it's only online in chunks. Trump spent a lot of time around construction rehab projects, maybe lead paint fumes for the brain, or maybe he didn't, though. He's a rich boy. He didn't spend his time around construction sites. Those are all photo or just PR events. There's a bill in California to move to power lines underground, especially in towns bordering forests, but it was vetoed by Governor Brown for some reason. Well, the digging up part of it, and it's expensive. Nugent has lead brain poisoning from shooting off guns in close quarters. Well, I don't know if he did that as a young man. He was always kooky. I think he's just got just mentally. I think he's mentally ill. And it might be exacerbated by the amount of time he spends, indoor shooting. Syphilis, did you guess, for Trump? Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Also, strong infrastructure and job, retirement, healthcare. Although I don't doubt that at some point Trump has been on a barrage of antibiotics in an attempt to kill off, or early on to kill off if he had um, sexually transmitted diseases. That if he got it early enough, he'd that would arguably, in theory, wipe out his syphilis if he got it early enough. The question is did he ever go see his doctor for real? Because even his crazy doctor would just go, hey, you know what, I'm just going to put you on a course of antibiotics, or we're going to give you a series of shots. You just come in here and I'll just give you a shot of antibiotics. I don't see him taking pills regularly. Trump sniffing Adderall is enough to scramble his brain. Oh my God. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, just between like, I think there's a case to be made for, like minor strokes too. So, hold on. I'm getting hi. Hi. Hello. Oh, can you see me? It's frozen. It's frozen. It's frozen. There you are. Hello. Hi. Still online. I'm still streaming. So, okay. Have you been yet, or you're going to another thing, or because I thought it was at 10? Oh, you're leaving to go home. Okay, gotcha. Right. Okay. Well, I will call you back in 5 minutes. Can I have 5 minutes? No, okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. Love you. Okay. I'll talk to you midway. Okay. Bye, babe. Bye. There's something you rub on your Trump should clear it right up. Yeah. Strokes can go unnoticed for a long time. I think considering his diet, his lack of exercise, his like just horrible food habits, there's a lot to point to that he's had minor strokes over the last couple of years. And I think the stress is going to make it worse. I think he has gone through some stress related stuff, and they prop him up with Adderall and other stuff, over the course of it, between Adderall and 12 Diet Cokes a day. I think they get him jacked on caffeine and prescription meth, Ritalin or some other, focus drug of choice, whatever his go-to is. And I think that's how they keep him in line for some of the stuff that he seems kind of present for. And then he fades and he goes into these weird kind of jibber jabbery things. And there's always a ton of sniffing. And if he doesn't dose early enough, he's watery about it. And yeah, it's just very telling. There's a bill in California to move. Oh, that's right. So that's my thing rolled back. He's a piece of crap in and crap out. Right? Exercise reduces your lifespan so bad to exercise, believe me. Right. Well, that's what he believes. He thinks Trump thinks you only have a limited number of heartbeats over the course of your life, and if you exercise, you have more heartbeats. If you speed up your heartbeat at all, it shortens your life. Like, I mean, yeah, he won't survive another 2 years, assuming he doesn't get us all killed before then. I don't see him aging well out of office. Might be a series of transient strokes. I think that's reasonable to believe. Si ça va, but I'm Flemish. It's quite to follow the conversation. There you go. Martine Olieu. Bonjour. My aunt is Belgian and but spoke French. And married my uncle, and they lived in Tennessee, and she taught French at Vanderbilt. Where does this crackpot idea ever come from? I don't know where he heard it from. Maybe somebody knows. Trump's weird idea about exercise. Like did he read it in a? I mean, sorry, I said, did he read it in a book? Listen to me. Mm. Yeah. Donald Trump has indicated in several interviews that he does not exercise because he was belief that the human body has a finite number of heartbeats. There's been considerable speculation about Trump's physical and mental health, in part because few facts are known. During the campaign, his staff reported that he was 6 feet 3 inches tall, weighed 236 pounds, which is considered overweight but not obese. Trump himself says that he's not a big sleeper. I like 3-4 hours, and professes a fondness for steak and McDonald's. Other than golf, he considers exercise misguided, arguing that a person like a battery is born with a finite amount of energy. Let's see. So, yes, President Trump, an adult man who has access to the entire body of human scientific knowledge via the same device he primarily uses to disseminate a stream of consciousness, takes 140 character spurts. Apparently believes that the billions of people around the world who regularly engage in some form of physical activity are idiots that are slowly and voluntarily killing themselves. After college, after Trump mostly gave up his personal athletic interests, he came to view time spent playing sports as time wasted. Trump believed the human body was like a battery with a finite amount of energy, which exercise only depleted. So he didn't work out. When he learned that John O'Donnell, one of his top casino executives, was training for an Ironman triathlon, he admonished him, "You're going to die young because of this." In 2015, New York Times, Trump disclosed the evidence, scare quotes used for reasons that would immediately become apparent. Trump said he was not following any special diet or exercise regimen for the campaign. "All my friends who work out all the time, they're going for knee replacements, hip replacements. They're a disaster." Alternatively, his sage observation would be related to the fact that Donald Trump is a 7-year-old overweight male, and that many of his friends are also in that sweet spot for joint replacement. But let's not get a little rational. He exerts himself fully by standing in front of an audience for an hour, as he just did. That's exercise, he said. Okay, madness. Yeah. So, yeah. So Donald Trump thinks exercise makes you die young, and he thinks his exercise is standing in front of him. Standing up for an hour is exercise to him, which just means it makes him exhausted. And he's like, "Well, that was work," because he doesn't exercise. He thinks standing for an hour is work. Donald Trump. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Wow. So much for the Presidential Physical Fitness Award. Yeah, exactly. Jim Fix. Right. Yeah, I think was it Jim Fix who died jogging? Who's the um let's see, running hard to use the ironic death of Jim Fix. Yeah. Yeah, I think that probably had an effect on him because that became a story in New York, especially because I think Jim Fix used to jog in Central Park, or they talked about it. At least I won't have to worry about running into him while I'm out hiking the trails this summer. That's true. Jim Fix was evidently ignoring cardiac symptoms for a long time. Yeah. Listening to the post show while weeding the backyard, stimulating Saturday for body and mind. Well, good. I think that's a great use of your time. I'm glad I could help with gardening. I hope you're wearing gloves and yeah. Used to run, have feet, knee, and hip trouble. Trump's an imbecile. I agree. I'm certainly, my whole exercise program lately has been to focus on heavy lifting and weights as opposed to cardio. But I still like I do. Summer does like hit cardio kind of stuff, and like she does like maybe like twice a week. So sometimes I'll go with her and work out with her at those kind of things, and it's really fun. But and this is the interesting thing. It's hard to do. It's a lot of work, but it's easier than it was before I started doing more lifting. Like it's interesting because since I shifted away from cardio and doing more like heavy lifting and that kind of workout, my cardio is better. when I use it. So, right. Imagine getting one from, I don't know. What do they do? Yeah. Listen, let's see. How would SCOTUS rule on the Texas ruling on ACA? Once it gets there, will Judge Roberts side against the conservatives? I think knock that out. I'm okay. I'm okay. You okay? I think the reason they'll support is with the ACA, they've consistently been saying, okay, you have to have something to replace it if you're going to take this away. That the law as it stands does have to have it. Too many people rely on it for you to just create a gap. You have to create this, something to replace it before you leave these people out. And so it could do something weird like preserve the pre-existing conditions rules about it, but without any financial root, which is basically goes, yeah, that part's got to be fixed and it's up to Congress, but you got to cover people for pre-existing conditions because you got a lot of people who are already in there. And if you take that away, suddenly there's no way those people get coverage anymore and they're just gonna die. And I don't know that Roberts, because that's what Roberts's legacy will be from that point on. Whoever is the tipping point or anybody who votes for it, quite frankly. I mean, we take for granted that the other conservative votes are going to be voting against it, but each one of them gets to wear on their, around their neck the rest of their life, all the people who die who don't have coverage because they had pre-existing conditions, because they allowed the law to be stripped without any replacement. Oh, you better not forget about calling Summer. I won't. Let me be quick about it then. Thank you, though. My time is about up. We got about a minute and a half. I want to thank you guys so much for joining with me in this weekend. It's been almost a 3 and 3/4 hour stream. That's a long time for you guys to hang out. I appreciate it. Next week I will be back in Vegas for the show, so things will be smoother. We hope. Anyways, you guys are fantastic. I may have found in doing this and fixing this little thing a workaround. I will check and see. Those of you that are coming up to Santa Barbara, let me know. And thank you, Benny Loco. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you guys so much for the super chats, and thank you guys to all the patrons, the ones that have joined. I want to make sure, because sometimes people join while I'm on this show, and I want to see if I get a chance to mention them. Yeah, we have 24 patrons now. We had 6 a month ago. So thank you guys for coming on board and joining. Your patches are going out this week, and any of the other people who got their lab rat scripts and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's going out next week. It takes a month of it being in to cycle through and all that kind of stuff in some cases. So some of you are just getting moved in. If you just signed up, that's what it takes. So I appreciate that. I'm doing some Patreon only streams. You'll get a heads up of the songs that I teased earlier. If you're a patron, I'm going to do a live stream where you guys can see the video before I release it and all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys so much for joining me every Saturday. I can't tell you how much heartwarming it is, quite frankly, how heartwarming it is to see you guys in here regularly. Carl, I hope to see you tonight with your lovely wife, Joyce, at the show in Santa Barbara. Have a safe drive if you're going up there. Anybody else who's up there, we will see you up there as well. Monday, I'm doing an event for the Humane Society in New Orleans. And then in 2 weeks, I will be at the Halifax Comedy Festival in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Nerd Halen, the Van Halen cover band that I am fronting, is playing our first full gig ever. Very exciting. May 11th at the Federal in North Hollywood. put that on your calendars. And then the following Saturday, that's on a Saturday night, the following Saturday, the 18th, 01, we'll have our first gig in a while at Petey's in Reseda. It's a get back on our feet gig for those of you in the Southern California area who want to come down or be around for that. And then I'll be adding a bunch of new stand-up dates in the next 2 weeks because we're scheduling the rest of the year, and so I had a big powwow with the agents about what we're planning. So we'll get to finalize contracts and release those kind of things. And what I want to do is, as part of the Saturday shows when I am traveling, is try and find a location, especially when I'm in the Midwest and in the on the East Coast, where you guys can actually come down and sit with me. It's hard to get people in a location at 8 a.m. It's not hard to get you guys to come out, but it's hard to get the people who, would give me a coffee house or something to do the show from, to get that rolling at 7, 8 o'clock when I have to get in there and get set up. But when in the Midwest and the East, it's later in the day. So it's easier to find a place that will let me go roll in there at 10:30 and set up for a noon show or, that kind of thing. So I'm going to do more of those where we can all kind of gather and have a live show. And so those of you that are in the chat room, I will see you at those things. Thank you for your Patreon support. Thank you for the super chats today. I appreciate you guys more than you know, and I will see you again next Saturday. Bye, everybody.